Any possible times?
Yes.
We're done.
Try something. Take your time.
We don't need until 6, it's fine.
So,
It'll be
All right.
It's gonna come in sweating.
Yeah.
Or
No, guy in
replay
Londonderry.
music or whatever.
Yeah, it's a guy in Londonderry that does this. Yeah, several in town go to him,
Yeah, poor guy.
which is how we learned about him. Yeah, it's good.
All set? Good evening and welcome to the September 21st, 2022 meeting of the Litchfield School Board. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reviews or revisions to the agenda?
One thing I had was, I believe we were gonna talk about board composition tonight. I didn't see that on the agenda.
Okay, I'll make a motion to add board composition to right after school board comments.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor of adding this board composition after school board comments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, 500. Any other revisions to the agenda? Did you have anything?
Nope.
Okay. Summary of non-public actions from September 2nd, 2022. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of August 17th, 2022. Mrs. McDonald seconded. The motion carried 500. And without further ado, I'll bring this up to presentations and recognitions. We have a principal's report from Principal Mitchell, and Mrs. T, our reading specialist, is here as well. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the board for actually accommodating this. This was my mistake. I asked to be moved to the second meeting in September, so I had something to report, and then I went ahead and scheduled one of our open houses on the same night. So I appreciate the flexibility so that we could get this in.
You're not gonna get a parking spot, you know.
I know. Hopefully they honor that.
it
He's
for
got
you.
his
You
name
have a
on one.
reserved one, don't you?
It doesn't always pull the power that you think it would. So two things that are off the report that I want to take advantage of just having this public forum to say, which is one, for this year, leading up to Veterans Day in November, so starting around November 1st, what we'd like to do is start a GMS Wall of Heroes. And so what we're asking for is pictures of veterans that are tied to GMS or even to Litchfield and can go back as far as possible. I would love to have from Revolutionary War up to modern day. So we're putting out a request that will slowly go out to parents. I've met with the vet groups, and really what we're looking for is pictures with name, branch, and date of service. And something to be clear, we will keep these photos because the hope is that every year we'll put up and continue to add to it. So if you want to send us a print, we'll keep it. Please don't send us the original because we'd, again, like to hold on to them. So anyone who's watching or listening can email them to me, dmitchell@litchfieldsd.org, or you can mail them in, and then we'll keep them, and hopefully this wall goes up this year and continues to grow. And specifically for the board, I've mentioned a few times the work that we've done on the mission and vision. And so now we are at the point where we're coming up with the last section, which is our common commitments, which is an annual exercise of the mission and vision just to keep it alive and kind of make it practical for that year. And since the beginning, we've looked at this not just for the school, but the school is part of a greater community. And so the staff with the leaders has come up with 2 common commitments that represent kind of how the mission and vision applies faculty and school-wide. I've been meeting with the PTO. They're going to come up with one that hopefully represents kind of the parent side. And I'd like to present to you at the board, and hopefully the board as a representative body of the community may consider coming up with a statement that we could also add to it. So I just have copies for the board to show you
Thank you. Thank
where
you.
we're at down at the bottom. You've seen everything else before, but down at the bottom are those 2 common commitment statements that would come with the staff. And so I would ask the board to. Oh, sorry.
Michelle needs one. Thank you.
I'm like, why did I have 8? And then I was like, I counted. Thank you. So, at another time or a future date, I would ask that you would at least consider adding a statement to that to represent the community aspect for the school. And so now, without further ado, I've brought a friend with me tonight. I brought Chris Tate, who is our reading specialist extraordinaire. And I brought her for two reasons. One, I know at the last meeting, a small bit of conversation came up about the reading pilot that we're doing this year. And I think she could speak a little bit to the process that went into selecting that program. Also, last week we sent out our annual screening letter, which is mandated by law that we do the screening. And so from that, that's a process. And then that also leads into a process of varying levels of support. And so I figured I'd bring the building expert to just kind of give a general overview of the reading world, what's been happening, what we do all the time. And so I'm just going to kind of cede my time over to Mrs. Tate.
So the reading world is the best world to be in. I'll just start with that. So I'll start with the pilot process. So Journeys, our subscription to Journeys was running out, and they're no longer keeping that program going. So we knew that we needed to look into programs. So we started a committee last September. We had one teacher from each grade level, we had a special educator, and we had the three reading tutors. And we met every month and started looking at programs. So first, we looked at the strengths and weaknesses of what we had, because we figured that would help drive what we were going to look for. And then each team member took a program to research a little bit more, came back, presented to the team, and we decided which we'd like to see presentations on. So that was a whole year-long process. In the end, what was decided was that Into Reading, which is hardcore, is going to be used for grades 1 through 4, and then Fontes and Pinnell in kindergarten. And so Fontes and Pinnell is a huge program. So there's 3 components that we're piloting, and there are 2 teachers at each grade level piloting these. So we're doing the guided reading, which is, it's small group instruction, and the books are at the kiddos' reading level. They're also using the interactive read aloud portion of it, where the teachers are focusing on a key concept or comprehension skill they want to work on with the kiddos, and that book is above their reading level, but it's teacher-led. And then the mini lessons, and those mini lessons, again, focus on whatever skill it might be. Into Reading is for grades 1 through 4, and it really works on the 5 pillars that the International Reading Association kind of pointed out as key components for kiddos learning to read. So phonological awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. And again, we have 2 teachers at each grade level piloting that. There's a writing component to Into Reading, which they'll also be using. As a committee, we started to look into different writing programs, but we weren't sure. We want to give this one a chance and see how we do with it, and if it's something that the teachers really like, or if we're going to go down a different path later on. But it's looking like we'll stick with what we have. What else did I want? Oh, we also, at K and 1, we're using Hegarty. Hegarty is a phonological awareness program. What we're finding is that kids are coming in, and they used to have been read nursery rhymes and could rhyme and those things, and we're not seeing those skills as much anymore. So Hegarty really works on those skills. So rhyming, clapping out syllables, deleting sounds from words, and that's really a foundational skill for reading, because if you can't hold those sounds kind of in order in your head, then you have a hard time reading and spelling. And then Wilson is a very strong phonics program. It's multisensory, it's direct instruction, it's very systematic, it has a strong scope and sequence for the kiddos. So we're using that in K and 1, and we actually started that last year, and we found that the kids are coming into first grade with stronger letter sound recognition and letter recognition and that kind of thing. So that's been really good to see. I think that's pretty much it for the programs. As far as our literacy screener, so like Dan said, that's a state mandate that started, I think, in 2016. And the state was right on top of things and sent us guidance in 2017 on how it should look. So that started actually the first week of school. What happens is it's comprised of that screener. We use iReady because we're using that test already. We also do informal assessments with the kiddos. So we're looking for, in kindergarten and grade 1, letter recognition, letter sound recognition, and then a lot of phonological awareness. We have an informal screener for that. So that starts in first grade, the first week of school. And then in kindergarten a little bit later to give them some time to settle in. So then what happens is, because kindergarten starts later, that gives us the opportunity to go back and redo our informal assessments on the kiddos who did poorly on the first round in September. And what happens, and is nice because of that first round in September, we can already start grouping students and providing small group instruction and intervention. So that's wonderful. And we're seeing that working and progress being made. So that's really good. So we look at all those scores, and then we determine, the kids who are struggling the most. And from there, they're grouped, or they might even get one-on-one instruction in, typically at that age, it's, decoding or phonological awareness. Letters are sent out to the parents whose kiddos qualify, as well as an intervention plan, and then we do progress monitoring to see if they're making progress, to keep the parents informed, and then determining if they need to stay in a group or not. Some of them kind of graduate out of that. So that's what's happening there. And that leads us into student supports, and we're very fortunate. We have a Title I reader tutor in kindergarten who focuses just on kindergarten. We have a Title I tutor who focuses on grades 3 and 4, and then we have our district reading tutors who focus on grades 1 and 2. So that Title I tutor's focusing on kiddos who qualify for interventions based on the screener, as well as other students that might need some extra support but didn't really qualify but have some gaps. And the same with our reading tutors in grades 1 and 2. Again, like I said, some of it's small group, some of it's one-on-one. And what's nice is that the reading tutors are able to follow. If the kiddos are still struggling a little bit as they're leaving grade 2 and still have some holes in decoding skills, they're able to work with them again in grade 3. And then we have a lovely Title I person who's in grades 3 and 4, and there we're seeing more focus on fluency and comprehension. And that really tells us that that small group support is working, because we used to see more decoding issues in grades 3 and 4, and we're not seeing that as much. Now we're seeing more fluency and comprehension, and that's the natural progression. You've got to be able to break those words down before you could read fluently or understand what you're reading. So it seems to be going very well. And that's the reading world.
I missed, what grade levels are piloting Haggerty?
Haggerty is K and 1.
Okay, thanks.
In addition to Fontes and Pinnell?
Yep, yep. Well,
Do
Well,
they have a writing component at that level? I'm trained in the middle school with Fontes.
no,
and
it's, so they'll just be drawing pictures, writing, you know what I mean? It's,
Yep.
at the kindergarten level, it's so much.
Have you noticed a difference in the kids who've had full-day kindergarten? Because you've been there quite a while.
Yes,
That
for
didn't
sure.
that came out wrong. You have a lot of experience since you've been
No,
in
I've been there. This is my 27th year. I used to ride a dinosaur.
Have you noticed a difference in kids'
Yeah,
skills?
yeah, for sure.
Just by having all-day kindergarten?
That
'Cause
and-
was the hope.
And what really kind of highlighted those differences too is when we were out for COVID, just everything, you know, knowing how to line up, being more independent, being able to work and all those things for sure, yeah. Yep, big difference.
Thank you. for all
Thank
your
you
work.
guys, thank you. I hope I didn't talk too fast. Auctioneer school, going once, going twice.
You have a short time with students, you have to get it all in. Thank you
fast
for,
listeners.
Thank you. Good.
thank you. Anything else for Mr. Mitchell?
Good luck at open house.
Thank you. I'll be on time. Maura will appreciate that. So.
I'm getting a parking spot
Looking
before
forward
he
to the
does.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Yes, we had, I believe we had the first whole cast rehearsal tonight.
Yes.
There were a lot of kids at GMS. I think the cast is over, I believe it's over 80.
I think it's about is it?
100 is what
Yeah.
I
I
thought
think
heard.
I heard over about 100.
Yeah, I joked it's gonna be the easiest choreography because it's just gonna be this. Like, there's no place to move, but there's an excitement, and I have to say too, it's not just the staff, the amount of volunteers that are coming out. This is
It's amazing.
truly a community event, and we're really, really excited.
Yeah.
We are
So-
too.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
punctuate that, despite what was said the other night about cutting arts, we have 85 kids involved in an arts program.
Yes.
We are absolutely fostering this per what we've discussed. So to be clear, there's evidence, right?
And
Those
staff
kids
from
are-
all three schools.
Exactly.
That
So
are,
that was,
that are help leading this charge.
Awesome.
that was an unfounded claim the other evening, as seen by what we're doing.
Yeah. I'm interested to see them all fit on the stage, and it's going to be a great bunch of
Great.
performances.
It's a lot of munchkins.
Thank you all.
Flying monkeys.
Thank you. Let's see. That brings us to community comment on agenda items. I'd actually, we haven't been clear about this in the past, but I'd like to make a motion to the board to allow comment on previous agenda items. I think I see a lot of people, similar faces that are here tonight as were here on Monday. And, since the discussion of the solutions is on the agenda, I want to make sure that we're covered on that too. Any objection from the board?
And we're not allowed to respond
Right,
per,
right.
So
I
that,
don't have any objection. It seems like it's on the agenda anyway,
Yeah,
so
okay.
I
I
feel
think
like
it's
that
covered.
Okay, good to cover
covers
that.
it.
I just don't, so that motion does not allow input for tonight's agenda?
No, it does.
It does.
I wanted to include,
Monday's
Oh,
agenda.
Monday's
And including
agenda.
past.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep. All right, with that, I'll open community comment.
You made a motion for that. Do we need to vote? or is
No,
it-
I'll withdraw it.
Okay, thank you.
Right up here to the table. Just, if you can state your name and address for the minutes.
My name is Tara Coakley. I live at 2 Waterview Circle. Unfortunately, I was not able to make the meeting Monday, like all of you. I think I know all of you. I know you all have kids. Something happened with my children. So I was tied up. I did watch the meeting, and I do want to say, as a taxpayer, as a parent, to start off, I just want to thank all of you for everything you do for our kids. I do have to disclose, I do work for the schools. I'm the Title I reading tutor at Griffin for grades 3 and 4. I just feel like I need to cover myself. I don't want it to come out later, which is why I think Chris said lovely. And I think having a perspective on a lot of different things, I also was very upset and disappointed, like I think almost all of our residents, that we had this, I guess I'm confused. I don't even know what the correct term is, deficit, accounting mistake, whatever we're calling it. It is extremely upsetting. I certainly don't have a ton of extra money in my budget to be able to cover different things. That being said, I do want to thank you for voting for option 1. If I came, that was what I was going to ask us to do. And I think that's a hard vote. I know a lot of you have been really pushing and working hard with the Reimagine GMS. And that's heartbreaking as a parent, a taxpayer, and a staff member at GMS that's going to be impacted by what happened. But I think you did the responsible thing in taking that vote. I think by using money that we have been allocated, I'm a devil in the detail person. When I vote for issues, I vote on the warrant article, I read the summaries, but I feel like that's my job as a voter, to read the article and know what I'm voting on. I followed the meetings. I did hear the discussions about how this money is supposed to be for GMS, but because of the warrant article, it can be used for other things. And I did vote for the middle school. I voted for the middle school because I think it is an important project. I listened to all of the information that had come out, and honestly, I was concerned that with everything going on, that it may come in over budget. But I think it's important that we invest in our capital infrastructure. And I think having buildings, we are responsible for the upkeep of them at the end of the day. And these are things that have to be done. And I think you guys are the ones on the front line. I think I've said to every one of you, whether at baseball games or meetings or whatever, I think you have the toughest job in the world, because I know I personally send my kids to the school, and your votes impact that in addition to the teachers. I don't take that lightly. I'm sorry, just lost my train of thought. I don't take that lightly. And I do want to say, I do trust you. I know that was brought up the other night, that a lot of people do not trust the board. I do trust you because I know you, and I know your interest is in our kids. Was there something that happened that shouldn't have happened? Absolutely. And this is where I'm going to come back in as a taxpayer. What I do want to know at the end of the day is I want the findings of the audit report to be public, because I think we all need to see what happened. I'm not a big into blame games. I don't like calling people out personally. I'm not a very confrontational person, but I do want to know what happened. And most importantly, more important than I think anything I heard the other night, I want to know what is changing so it doesn't happen again. I fully appreciate we have one business administrator. Thank you. I have to say I'm not a budget person. I understood your spreadsheets, and my husband will tell you that's saying something. So I do appreciate that we have one business administrator. We have one superintendent who has a lot of responsibilities. And if we're running multiple projects in town, I think that's something we need to take under consideration. I know it was mentioned, I don't think it was at the meeting, I think it was in a Facebook post. Maybe there does need to be a position that is overseeing that. I would prefer to see that, to have that double check, that checks and balance we're supposed to have, than to see something happen again.
Sorry.
I talk a lot, sorry. But anyhow, at the end of the day, I just want to thank you, and I do just want to make sure that whatever hole, whatever happened is, we know what it is and we fix it.
Thank you.
Hello. Shanna Dodge, 10 Heron Drive. I'm gonna read this so I don't lose my train of thought too. That would definitely happen to me. I'd like to thank the school board of the people who've been for the past few years and Dr. Jetty for keeping the students' educational experience as your first priority in all your decisions. As a parent, I know that I can get tunnel vision for sure. And confession, I do not always agree with the decisions that you guys have made because of that. But that's why I'm so grateful that you guys keep the bigger picture in mind and in the forefront of everything you do. And I appreciate that. Getting back to my notes. You worked through an unprecedented and nearly impossible situation during the pandemic. You made it possible for our kids to get back to school safely. And in addition to that, you chose to keep up with the LMS renovation project and the new elementary school projects, and because you knew it was the right thing to do. Your lives have been made more difficult for it, but you remain steadfast in seeing it through, and I appreciate your hard work. I want to specifically recognize Tina for the countless hours that she has given so far to this board, especially being instrumental in the implementation of full-day kindergarten a few years ago, that we just heard how important that is, and also volunteering many more hours as school board rep on various other committees in town. Offering the best possible educational experience to the kids in this town benefits everyone in this town. And I just want to recognize the work that you do and that you have done and say thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Sheila.
All right, here I come. Marcia Finnegan, Michelle, 147 Talent. I think there should have been an option 4. The superintendent take out a very large loan to pay back the school or the district. And Dr. Jetty, saying that you're sorry, terribly sorry about this, doesn't break the fact that you broke the law. And I'm calling on the superintendent, the school board, to take the appropriate actions to terminate his contract. Changing the subject a little bit, I'm surprised that Heidi called up saying still wanting a elementary school. I don't see that coming in a very many years. I don't think the town is going to go for it. And I hope that you were listening to the people as they spoke Monday night. Tina, I think that you should resign your post as a school board chair. And I'd like to see also that the school board take away the power that the superintendent has at these meetings. To me, the superintendent should be sitting maybe next to Michelle, well, he is, but, you guys are running the school board. He isn't running it. And I'd like you all to listen to what Ray Peebles says about the clause about the superintendent not living up to his contract. And Tina, are you still gonna resign your position as chairperson?
We're reorganizing the board after school board comments.
Okay, all right, and that's all.
Anyone else for public comment?
I can't help myself. Diane Plansky, 144 Talent Road. I disagree with the call for resigning. I think it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to take this board to a new place if you take all of the things that you've learned and apply them. My biggest thing is accountability. And that, I heard a lot of you say the other night, that it's your responsibility to know this. I heard it from a lot of you. I need that from you. I need to know we hired a person who is gonna say, not what the lawyer tells you you have to say so you don't get sued, but what's in your heart, that the mistake happened, it shouldn't have happened. I just want responsibility. I want you guys to work with the budget committee. I truly, truly do. I want to understand financially what's happening in the school. And I don't think, and I have an accounting background. I was the business manager for a cable television company for 12 years, was responsible for their budgets. So when I get a bunch of gobbledygook in and I can't tell where it goes, it makes me say, it's a shell game. So my call is that I don't think it's a bad idea to have a citizen oversight to see what the changes are that you guys are going to make as far as what the budget, what the BA and the budget committee are going to do so that you understand it. I think it's a great idea. I don't think it needs to be around forever. But I think until you get, and I know Kate Stevens said that she wanted a process put in place, that it didn't matter whose butts were in the seats, that this is how it was going to be, and that this board would be reporting information to us the same way as the next board and the next board, so that we as people that live in the community do understand it, and it is easier for us to grasp. I hope you make the right decision on re-electing a chair. I do thank you, Christina, for everything that you have done. I didn't hear a whole lot of name calling when I was up there. I absolutely called for accountability. I absolutely heard a lot of people that were angry. And I did hear some people ask for resignations. I personally didn't, but I want accountability. And I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Scott Taylor, 6 Lilac Court. Understand that you can't respond to the question. I ask is that somebody on the school board take note, perhaps bring this up in either this meeting or a future meeting. A couple of questions that I have. There was a lot of talk when you did the vote around the September 30th deadline. Yet we had two options that allowed things to occur after the September 30th deadline. What I would like to be able to hear is what, if any, consequences for the school board, the school district, the superintendent, and the business administrator are there for missing that deadline of September 30th of having revenue and expenses matching. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Carrie Douglas, 9 Pheasant Street, taxpayer. That's it. It was a tough meeting on Monday, and I appreciate that. And having be a volunteer and a person involved in the district, I absolutely appreciate all of the time and the effort that goes into this. It's hard, and you're gonna be facing people who don't always agree with you. Case in point. But I agree with Diane, there has to be a level of accountability. There has to be trust reestablished. There are gonna be people whose faith and trust is not shaken, but there are a lot of people who are. I mean, just look how long it took the district to come back from football. We've gone a few steps backwards. So I would hope that when you reshuffle this board, you take into account the fact that you need somebody in charge who has a lot of the trust of the community. And I believe that you have someone on that board who the community already has a level of trust with, who has been a chair in the past, who is very involved in this and has a financial background. Our issues right now are financial. We need somebody who can speak that language, who can do that math, who can dig into those numbers. So I hope as you guys reevaluate who's going to be sitting in which chair, I sincerely hope that we consider the needs of the district, what kind of the strengths of the person we need in that chair. And I would hope that you would consider Andrew for that position. Thank you.
Anyone else for public input? All right. Seeing none, oh, did you have something, Patrick? No. Oh, it looked like you were ready to get up. That's okay.
Bad timing.
All right, with that, I'll close community input. At this time, we thank everyone who provided the board with comments on tonight's agenda. We've now ended public comment, and the board will conduct its business in view of the public. We will have a second public comment as close to 8 o'clock as possible. So let me scroll back up.
Computer.
Correspondence.
Oh, my computer just died and my thing isn't working. Just so happened, I was working with marker today, so I took all my notes in marker. September 14th, Cindy Caleri of Pinecrest Drive wrote an email concerning our financial situation. She wants a solution that does not impact taxpayers and would like to work with an outside agency to evaluate the situation. September 16th, Gail Berenger, a lifelong resident of Litchfield, Director of Special Ed in Nashua, suggests monthly reporting of the budget, concerned that monthly tracking and reporting of unanticipated funds has not happened. Looking forward to Monday's presentation. September 16th, Kate Stevens created a timeline for John Davidson to share with the board. September 16th, requests from Andrew to lock spreadsheet for public viewing. September 16th,
To lock it?
Just to lock it down so we
So-
can post it on.
that people can't change it. That's how I took it.
Right.
Okay.
September 16th, Andrew put slides together for use on Monday evening. September 19th, Kate Stevens emails John Davidson for more questions to forward to the email. Andrew forwards. September 20th, Denise McHugh thanks the board for all they have done, worries that no one of substance will ever want to volunteer for the board. Disappointed Tina stepping down. Suggests one member of the board is working against the board and seems to excuse himself from ownership of the situation. September 20th, Susan Haley of Pilgrim Drive, disappointed in the shortfall, tells us not to take anything personally. It's a business situation and she's offering assistance in any way. September 20th, Samantha McClelland, acknowledging how rough Monday was, apologizes for rude and personal insults. Money is a hot topic. No, not all parents feel that way. Thank you for your service. September 22nd, Mark Morrison, not having Wi-Fi is a safety issue. He's not talking about students having cell phones in class. He would like students to have access to Wi-Fi if needed in case of emergency. He suggests us calling Homeland Security for further information. September 22nd, Derek Barca also experienced Wi-Fi issues himself on Monday. It's a safety issue and a nuisance for families. He understands why it was put in place, but asks if we can reinstate it for emergency purposes. Leanne Romano today, September 21st at 4 p.m. There's no way the superintendent didn't know. People are angry and wants Andrew to be chair. Did I get them all? I think I did.
Summary.
Way to go with the back.
I guess my only comment would be there are additional emails underneath some of those strings from board members.
Okay.
I don't know that we need to go into all of those, but maybe we should include them for purposes of the minute. But for
Okay.
example, if we respond to the entire board, even though we didn't initiate the first email, that is still, to me, something that should be included in the minutes. You don't necessarily need to mention it, but I know Andrew's string had, 6 different emails that went off of it, and there were different times, so. I'm throwing it out there for when Michelle's copied on those, I believe, anyway, but just saying that,
That would be a long conversation.
It would, I mean, yeah.
That's
but
absolutely fine.
I
We'll do
think
that
we
in
should
the
at least
future.
have them in the minutes.
Yeah, I agree.
I forwarded everything to Michelle to put
Thank
in the
you.
minutes.
Okay. That brings us to, thank you, Liz. That brings us to superintendent comments.
Yep, so the first comment is regarding our first Friday enrollment report. So remember, we continue to zero in on the October 1st report, which happens to be a Saturday. So this year is going to be a September 30th report, because at the end of the day, those are the numbers that we'll use and bring forward into the projection spreadsheet, so that on October 5th, we'll have a report of where we stand, and it will make modeling predictions for class sizes going into next year. Looking at the first Friday enrollment, it's our second look at this. A couple of things to observe. So at Griffin, we're now at 437 students, which is actually 7 more than what we had enrolled at the start of the year. But I will tell you, if you look at last year's prediction, we were predicting 405 in K through 5. And when you back out the pre-K, we're actually at 395. So we're 10 under what we had predicted for the enrollment. So again, it tends to be, it continues to show that it's pretty steady, and we'll know more as we get closer to October 1st. At the middle school, we had 360 enrolled on the opening day. We're currently at 359, so we've lost 1. We projected 364, so we are 5 under what our projection was. Again, spread across 4 grades, pretty reliable data. And at the high school, we had 414 enrolled on opening day. First Friday, we were at 411, so we had lost 3 students over that time period. But we were projecting 424, so we've actually had a decrease of 13 students at the high school. So again, those projections are based on October 1st. We'll take another look at it as we get closer, but I'm not seeing any major anomalies across these reports, and the models continue to be pretty accurate for us.
So what was the total projected versus the 1207?
I'll get that for you.
You gave them by school, but
Yeah, I didn't add them up
math in
though,
my head.
so, but if I go back to the chart, the projection was for 1233, and we're at 1207.
okay.
Any questions for me on the enrollments?
Any questions for Mike? No? All right. School fields?
Yeah, so the school field updates. So at the last board meeting, we had talked about the condition of the fields. Mainly the drought conditions had really deteriorated the fields at the high school as we were getting ready to open. The fields were pretty hard because the ground had dried out and the grass had died off. The good news is that right after the conversation, we got a little bit of rain. That helped. And, you know, the grass sort of goes into a dormancy, and once it gets water again, it does green back up fairly quickly. The other thing is that we had the plumbing crew or the landscaping crew in to take a look at the wells. So the fields at the high school are irrigated by 2 wells. They're located sort of at the end of the track closer to the baseball field. There's one back by the woods and there's another closer to the parking lot. So it's 2 well areas. And they pulled up one of the pumps and it was dead. It was a 22-year-old pump installed when the school was built. The life of a pump, they'll tell you, is about 12 years. So we got 22 years out of a 12-year
Two at my house.
pump. So
Yeah.
that absolutely had to be replaced to get the irrigation going again. And they pulled the second pump out of the ground, and when they tested it, they do an ohm meter test on it, and it was on its last leg. It was registering a very low number, and the gentleman that did it likened it to like a starter on a car, that it won't work, and then you tap it with a hammer and it works, because you just adjust it enough. It moves just enough inside that it'll work for a little bit. He said, we can put this in the ground and you'll be calling us back tomorrow. And
It also wasn't completing its cycle, so it would go off and some of the sprinklers would start, but then before the next round would go, the pump would fail again. And then the next time, maybe it would complete a little bit more of the cycle or a little bit less. So multiple problems with it.
So it wasn't just the drought that was causing it, it was the
it
lack of water.
it was
too.
comboed by the drought and the fact that the wells had, one pump had stopped working. And the initial company who came in, what was the initial invoice or estimate? It was like 17,000?
I think it was 20,000.
Yeah. And so this firm that we got in was able to do it for 13,000.
A little over 13.
So
For
we.
one pump or for both?
For both,
pumps.
to replace them both. And so we made the decision, you know, it's an unexpected cost, but we made the decision we needed to do it. We have an obligation to keep the fields up. The investment that we've made in the fields with the landscaping company between the treatments and the reseeding and the aeration and so forth, that $13,000 was a minor amount to maintain the investment that we've already made.
Which fields does that water?
It actually does everything at the high school, aside from one
Including
thing.
the practice field over by the.
I don't know about the
Not
practice
sure on
field.
that, yeah.
Does it do the
That's a big
track?
issue.
I don't think I've ever seen water at the track.
There is irrigation apparently also around the high school itself, like the lawn.
Yes, I've seen that up.
But that seems not to be working, and they're unable to trace back and find the control box for that. So that's another thing that we're working on. So the irrigation at the high school is, it's a 22-year-old system. It was made with what I'll call inferior piping. Even the guys who pulled up the pump, they were looking at it and they're like, this is totally jerry-rigged in here. It's like plastic going into metal. They're like, we've never seen anything quite like this. So we were like, well, then fix that. So that was all incorporated in. But that's where we are with the fields, and we'll continue to monitor them. And we're going to talk about fields again when we get to the capital improvement plan, because the irrigation is definitely a topic that we need to pay attention to. Anything else for me on fields? And then the last point is I just want to come back to the community information night. So we have that scheduled. Mary and I are looking at each other. We just feel like we don't know exactly what we're doing for that night. Mary said to me, is it the 29th or the 28th? And I said, it's the 28th. Where'd you get the 29th? So I just want to, again, seek a little bit of clarity with the board. We got 1,000 moving parts. We have this event scheduled for a week from tonight. And we need to make sure that we properly prepare for that. So we're now calling it Community Information Night as opposed to a forum. But
After open house, I think we need to think long and hard how this is presented, because I did not hear one positive comment from the parents. In fact, I think it was Mr. Benoit's class that the people got a little crazy about it. How much they disliked. You were
Mr.
there.
Burnett looks puzzled.
The competencies. That's when you dismissed us all.
So you're talking about grading and reporting, that was
Yes.
the focus that we had
Yeah.
talked about, okay.
They don't understand it. They
Power
wanna know why
school.
some teachers are using 1 through 4, some are using, they haven't seen colleges use 1 through 4. And what I'm hearing from college graduates is they wish they had finals. Nothing prepares them for high-stake testing. I'm just reporting what I heard on open house.
I'm gonna make a suggestion at this point. I don't know what folks feel about, I mean, I think there's been a lot of meetings this September, and maybe
Take a break.
take it off, cancel it, regroup. I still would strongly recommend there be some type of power school tutorial or some type of, this is how you use it and some helpful hints or something, but that doesn't have to be from the school board, that can be
From Mary or
Mary
somebody
can
like
do that.
just the 1 through 4, what that means, what's traditional grading, why some teachers are grading
Right.
differently.
I know Mary had been working on videos and kind of those Q&A kinds of things.
How much work has gone into it so far? Because again, I don't wanna cut up.
So I'm gonna be honest, I've sort of delegated that off to Mary, because I said it's really about grading, reporting, our school, et cetera. So, I shared with her the notes that I had from our last meeting, and then she wrote back with the question on the night, so I'm like, but what, if we're gonna carry on next Wednesday, we need to get this in our newsletters this Friday, we have to really market this thing, which we're able to do. And if it really is a Q&A, you know, some direct instruction on, for parents on how to use and general, direction on where we are as a district, we can do that. That's,
Yeah.
we've done that, we have that material pulled
Right,
together,
it's already done.
but,
I mean, if there hasn't been a lot of work put into it, because again, I don't wanna have had Mary spend 6 hours on this in the past week and take her legs out from under her, but if there hasn't been a whole lot of work into this, I think we've had a lot of meetings this month. I think I'm feeling fatigue. I don't know about the rest of the board. It doesn't sound like we have a clear vision for what we want this to be yet, and I think we need to lock that down before we have it. So my suggestion would be if Mary
Agreed.
hasn't done a lot of work to cancel it, but if she has, then go forward, and I'll make it work.
She could also, I mean, if she has done work already, I mean, if she's put together a presentation, maybe another option, if it's educational in nature, is to have her record,
Yeah,
to
have her
record
record and
herself.
send that out.
And honestly, that may be more helpful to people because it's available to a broader audience.
Yeah. I support both of those ideas.
if it's okay, we have a meeting in the morning, and I'll discuss it with Mary, and if she's invested time and has material pulled together, we'll advertise it and, use it as a opportunity to interact and share. And if she's not that deep into it and would prefer to switch to some sort of tutorial video piece, I'll suggest that she do that. And we'll let the board know, which direction we're going.
Okay.
Right on.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'd like to open up school board comments.
So, a couple comments from my side. One is, excuse me, I'd like to thank Doug, again, for your presentation the other night, for your hard work to help root cause the issues at hand. It's a tough gig to come in, especially, 60 days into it. I think the board appreciates your professionalism, and just wanted to publicly thank you again for your work.
You're welcome.
Another item I wanted just to mention, I guess it's really for Michelle. I happen to notice under school board agendas on our website, the start time of our meeting still says 5 o'clock. Like actually on the website page.
I'll have to look.
Yeah, so just as a heads up on that. And the third item I wanted to talk about is starting to build some rapport or signs of good faith with the community. I think a way to do that is to zero out our stipends for the year, and we can talk about it in the budget cycle for continuing next year. But I'm going to make a motion to remove the school board stipends for this year.
I'd like to move that conversation to non-public.
Board members are not subject to non-public.
We are receiving a stipend as employees of the district.
We're
so
not
I think
employees of the
that
district.
matter-
They pay us, though.
But we're not employees of the district. 91 AC says, matters which if discussed publicly will likely adverse the reputation of any other person other than a member of the body or agency itself.
All right, a motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion. Anyone have any comments?
I just think, look, I know our stipends are nothing, right, I understand that, but we also understand that we went back to the select board and asked for an additional $7,000 out of impact fees to cover. Every dollar counts, right? This is a way to show our support We understand we're also in a deficit this year that we also need to continue to address. Every little bit helps.
Tara, Heidi, anything? Oh, I'm not running this, sorry.
I know. I mean,
I don't do this for the money. I
Nor
don't
do
care
I.
either way.
None
I
of us
don't.
do this for the money.
No.
None
I'm
of us
confident
do.
in that, right?
No.
But there's been a lot of posts out there, a lot of comment about how we're paid and how, you know what I mean? As ridiculous as that sounds.
after taxes.
I get it, believe
Liz and
me.
I both have computers that are die, like die. We don't have battery power on them. No. Honestly, like I'm trying to make it up in other ways. Like actually, when I was at open house at the school, one of the teachers actually made a comment about a piece of equipment that wasn't functioning and he thought was in the budget, but it wasn't. So I've taken the initiative to start having conversations with him about how I could maybe help with grant writing. So for me, it's about, how else can I contribute in a measurable way to this? So that has been my approach. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I would discourage any discussion of removing that stipend from the budget, as I believe every other elected official in town receives a stipend for their work to serve the community. I would caution
Is that
against.
true?
No, that's not true.
So the selectmen have?
Just the selectmen, and it's the same, about the same dollars.
They're
Budget-
elected.
Budget committee does not, and they're elected as well.
True.
I just never thought about the money.
No, it's a nice gimme, but if we're going to attract quality school board members in the future, I think that's, I think it's a carrot that needs to be there. I'm
When I
happy.
ran, I didn't even realize. I thought it was a
Right,
volunteer
none of us
position.
ran
I
for
didn't
the
even
money.
realize it was a
I
stipend.
think in my opinion, I think it would be a private matter between each board member and the district if they wanted to.
Can we get a legal opinion on whether or not this should be discussed in public or not?
I mean, I could certainly,
You know, it's just a
I
simple
can certainly
question.
ask the question of the attorneys. My observation on it is that, this is a surprise motion. You're all caught off guard.
Yep.
And taking time to think about it is an important thing. We have a longstanding practice of putting items on the agenda so that people can read them by Friday and think their way through it.
We
So
do.
the other piece is you have tasked us with finding $650,000 in the current budget. So you can make it easier for us right now, or you can, wait for us to come back and see what it is that we're able to do and then weigh all of that together. And you may say, you know what, instead of doing that, we're gonna do this. But I guess we're taking our time to really carefully go through line by line, starting tomorrow morning. And so waiting for that sum report is my advice, but it's up to the board how you wanna proceed.
I am again frustrated, and I will get into it during my school board comments about this continued ambush of last minute motions and demands, and what happened Monday was not okay, and again, no heads up to anyone on this board before this motion happens to make one board member look like a hero and the rest of the board members look like schmucks, and I'm not okay with it.
It's school
So-
board comment, is it not?
School
Am I-
board comment.
Am I not able to make motions?
You can ask for
Supposed to get
anything
things
to
on
be
the
put
agenda.
on the agenda.
But that's proven to not happen. So I'm really struggling here.
How do you mean, Andrew?
We talked about just the other day an agenda for Monday, and that was overridden. So help me understand. When is the appropriate time to raise concerns, to raise questions, to do
The
motions?
chair and the co-chair didn't want to have school board member comments because I thought personally, I'll tell you all, I didn't want to add flame to the fire and people to go out pissed off because I'm assuming everything would have been said, and I don't think any good would have come out with people talking more and riling up the crowd even more. Either way,
And frankly, we had the time to comment during
the whole
the
time.
deliberations. I made comments. I didn't have to stand up at a microphone in the audience to do it.
I never feel like I don't have an opportunity to make comments.
So in terms of this, I'm surprised by it, number one. And number two, again, it's it's not about the money. No one does this for the money, but it is, again, insulting to have that brought up without even a heads up. And so for now, I'm not in favor of it. It can come back up again, and I don't care.
All right.
It's $800.
The
but-
will of the board is spoken, so I'll remove my motion.
May I just respond to the agenda comment, though? So, we had a draft, I just want to review exactly what occurred, right? So there was a draft agenda that was created. It was shared with Tina at the non-meeting that we had with legal.
But none of us, I heard it, but you two.
I didn't look at it.
Well, no, it was just shared, it was right
It
next
was
to
on
her.
the table, I hadn't even looked at it yet.
Yep.
I didn't hear.
It was then
the
written
last-
on and totally restructured. And I took that as a suggestion.
By who did that?
It was sitting right there, you looked over and said, oh, is that the agenda?
I passed it
Tina
down.
kindly showed it to you, she's like, I haven't even looked at it, I just got it from Michelle.
Sure.
And then it was.
And you started writing all over it, oh, it should be this, it should be that.
But we talked about it as a board.
No,
We didn't.
again, gotcha.
We didn't.
Yeah,
We,
Liz didn't
you
see it.
marked it up
I
and
didn't
said,
see
let's
it.
do the following, and it came back down. And then I followed the policy and had a conversation with the board chair. And the whole point of the agenda this week was, it wasn't a full board meeting. It was a continuation in my eyes of the previous meeting because we didn't have the public turnout. And it was important that we keep it streamlined and hear from the public. That was really the focus of it. And another board member had said, well, where's the opportunity for board to comment? And I said, under deliberation, it's right there. And I said, and furthermore, at any time, any one board member can make a motion to amend the agenda, as we did tonight, seconded by somebody, and 3 people voted in, it's amended. I mean, it's that simple. And so, again, the accusation that we're somehow creating an agenda to stifle conversation is just frustrating, because the entire purpose was to listen and then for the board to deliberate and comment. And in my opinion, the agenda was structured as such. So I just have to respond to that, because the accusation was very frustrating to sit and listen to, when there's never been any attempt to stifle anybody's commentary, and that, I just have to say that.
Well, once again, it's me against this board, and that's okay.
Andrew, did you have any other comments?
Not that we can't cover elsewhere in the agenda. I mean, there were other things that certainly came up from Monday's meeting that I think we should talk about.
Definitely. All right, I'd
Are they
like
on
to,
the agenda? I
Well,
think they were.
we have district root cause of capital project overspend and corrective actions, so that is
Yep.
on the agenda.
Yep, and, yep, okay.
Yeah.
Just want to.
so I'd like to go next. I know everybody's awaiting this statement with bated breath, I'm afraid. First, I'd like to thank everyone who reached out with words of support and encouragement in the last few days. Your kindness is deeply appreciated. I also took heart in the many comments posted on social media acknowledging the hard work, time spent, and sacrifices we make to serve our district and community on this board. Thinking hard about how we got here in the days leading up to Monday's forum, as I'm sure every one of us has done, I also reflected on why am I here and how can I do better moving forward. The why is still the same. It's the reason I ran for office in 2016, 2019, and again in 2021. There is work to be done to address the needs of our district to make it great. Great communities can be defined by their great schools. They can also be defined by the greatness of the people within them. My hope, my goal for Litchfield is still that it will be defined by generosity, compassion, kindness, and willingness to work together for the good of our neighbors. That is my hope for this board as well. It's clear that we've allowed our differences to obstruct forward progress toward our shared goals. I failed in my primary goal as chair this year to bring us together and facilitate collaboration in our work together. Therefore, I'm stepping down as chair in hopes that this change will better serve this district and this community and this board. I will continue to serve the community I love as I was elected to do. Vice Chair Liz McDonald has my full support, and I wish her the best of what's to come. I encourage the board to endeavor to continue to seek first to understand, be respectful, have compassion, and build a willingness to work together for the good of our schools and our neighbors. So I resign my seat as chair, effective immediately.
But you will continue to be.
I will continue to be a member of this board, as I was elected to do.
Well, thank you, Tina. I do appreciate your leadership, and I definitely, in this town, should owe a debt of gratitude for you for your hard work with kindergarten, because I don't believe it would have happened without you. So I appreciate that. I also, there were a number of people who reached out to me actually after Monday, and just individually, and just wanted to quietly say a thank you to those people. I do appreciate it.
Don't do it.
What?
You're gonna cry.
No, I know. No, so thank you. Yeah, the new school board chair must be someone who can start building back trust. And that includes between board members. I'm not sure it can be done, but I think, Liz, you have my support as well. What else? You know, it's gonna be tough to chart the path forward, but the town expects collaboration and teamwork. It doesn't mean that we're gonna agree all the time, but it does all mean pushing in the same direction, so I hope we can do that.
Thanks, Tara.
Okay, my turn.
I should have written mine down. I didn't write it out.
I did, but I don't know that I'm going to stick to script, to be honest. A lot of these, we are going to get into, okay, I'm going to back up. I want to say thank you to the supporters out there, because there were so many messages and so much kindness shown on Tuesday. And as I posted on the WhatsApp page, I went to bed Monday pretty beaten and tired and disheartened, and went to bed on Tuesday still ridiculously tired, but energized and a little bit more optimistic. So I owe that to this great town, because to me that is more representative of Litchfield than what Monday night was. Second, I have been thinking about the situation as a whole, and really, as I said on Monday night, analyzing it from all these different angles. And there is the big problem of the financial situation, and I think we're going to get into that later in the agenda under the business administrator's report. However, one of the largest contributing factors I can see that isn't directly financially related is the divisiveness, is the frustration, is the fractures in this board, as well as between other town boards, that goes and predates my time on this board. I've been on this board for, a year and a half. And there has been what I feel, drama is a big word, but there has been so much underlying tension between major players on each board that I think it has led to a breakdown in communication. And so we had budget committee members that spoke on Monday night that said, I raised questions about this. I can tell you as a school board member, I didn't get those questions. I'm not sure it would have made a difference, and I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm saying there's a breakdown in communication and we need to fix that. And same with the select board. I think there needs to be outreach by all of the boards, not just the school board, to try to work on this communication piece and try to better these relationships, because if this continues in this way, we are going to continue to fail and flounder. And as I wrote a board email on Friday, we are going to continue to look dysfunctional if we continue to act dysfunctional. We cannot have members unilaterally moving to take things off of agendas on different committees. We cannot have board members surprising other board members with motions and comments that we are not aware of. And I think we truly need to communicate with each other in order to be able to make this work. So Liz, you have my full support. I'm behind you. I'm here for what you need. And I know I'm going to do my part to reach out to folks. And I hope budget committee members, select board members, rec commission members, you can take your pick. I hope everybody reaches out and we can work together, because Monday night was really disappointing, and I know we're better than this. So those are my thoughts on the personal side of things, and I'll get into the financial thoughts later. And thank you, Tina, for your time on the board as
Still
chair.
on the board.
I know, as chair. You didn't let me finish. It was like as chair.
Liz, did you have any comments to share?
There were so many things going through my head right now. I knew I was vice chair. I went into Monday night in a funk, and I left even more beaten up. Andrew, I wanted you to be successful, and you've done everything to undermine this board. You're individually not even telling us when you're sending emails to other people. I wanted other boards. You need to include all of us, or at least Tina in the chair. I really am so impressed with your financial skills. I want you to be on the oversight committee. But all of these surprises, I don't think it works. I want you to be successful. I want you to do the right thing with all of us included. I appreciate your thoughts, your insight. We all stand for a certain group of people, whether it's Tina supporters. God knows Tina and I haven't seen eye to eye for a long time. And I even brought up competencies tonight. Sorry, Mary. But we get over it and we move on. And I heard you telling somebody how to create a petition, how to get rid of us. That was on a hot mic.
That's a public thing.
Yeah, but why would you do that to people you want to work with?
That was the question that was asked of me. I shared public knowledge.
How to get rid of the superintendent and the school board.
That was the question.
Okay, if that's what you say, I want to believe you.
That was the
I just
question.
don't think you came in here with like a chip on your shoulder, and you had all the same information we had, all of it. And I know you've been asking, I heard you've been asking Corey, you were on the budget committee, you knew this before all of us did, because it was circling around in your head. I will not deny you knew something was fishy. But I only saw a negative balance at the end of the year for that project that was never paid for. I'm not an accountant. I trusted the numbers that were in front of me, as did everybody else. You saw through it, and I really appreciate that. But I really think we can work together.
I don't believe any of this board knew. Not for one moment do I believe any board member. Tina, you as well. Nobody. I don't believe anybody knew
I
it.
didn't hear what your
And I
statement
really
was.
tried to do my due diligence. When Carrie asked the question in May, the meeting that I wasn't able to attend, even before that came through the budget committee, Carrie, I had actually already initiated an email over to the BA, trying to get an answer. I got a response back. I didn't understand it myself, so I responded back and I said, can you clarify these? And then I was able to get that back to the budget committee, and then there was no other further questions. So I thought everything like, okay, they're okay with that. And then, yeah,
Again, I think it goes back to Heidi's statement about the breakdown in communication, how questions are asked, and how questions are responded to. And that is something that we need to address moving forward. Andrew, I know you stood up there and said the other night that you believed that information was purposefully and intentionally withheld from the budget committee. If you truly believe that I would do something like that, or that any member of this board or the superintendent would do something like that, you are dead wrong. You do not know us. The people that elected me, the people that have reached out to support me, know me and know that I don't have that in me. I truly did not comprehend the scope of the problem when it was first brought up, first presented. I've never claimed to be someone who understands accounting and finances. I've said that over and over again. In my opinion, as someone who does have that in their background, you were the one to catch it if it was going to be any of us, but I'm not blaming you. I know you had your suspicions. I am embarrassed that I didn't understand it, but to assert or allege that there was any kind of foul play on my behalf, I think that was incredibly disrespectful and just outright wrong.
Okay, thank you.
I really hope we can move past this, Andrew.
I
You have
know.
a valuable part of this board.
You are. I think building trust with us, though, is going to be difficult, Andrew. After
think it's
your
it's
email
two ways,
about,
though.
I agree. But I do have a serious concern about your behavior on the capital improvement planning committee. serious issue with that, because you unilaterally, asked for action without consulting the board. And so when we're on these committees, we're supposed to be representing the board, and I feel like you did not do that at all. So I think you should not be the rep to that committee.
Well, we can discuss that when we have committee, I'm sorry, I'm not the chair anymore. But if I have one suggestion, it's that we all review the codes of conduct and the codes of ethics that we signed when we signed on this year. I think those are the things that keep us honest, and those are the things that keep us respectful, and they're in place for a reason. They're for good governance. And I think as long as we stay true to those, then we can hopefully unite as a board and work together and to get the job done. Liz?
I accept your.
Oh, well, yeah, so currently I stepped down, so as vice chair, that brings you up to chair unless.
All right, well, I'm gonna make a motion that Liz McDonald be elected chair of the school board.
Do we need to?
Yeah.
I will second
Do we
it,
need
but
to?
do we need to? Because if the
She
chair steps
automatically
down.
becomes chair, but
I think that
if you want to go through the motion, that's, makes it cleaner.
I will second.
Feels weird I'm making a vote for myself.
You can abstain.
Abstain.
Do I make the motion?
No,
I
It's already
just
made and
made it.
set.
All
It's
right,
already made
no,
and set.
do I, okay,
Call the vote.
Call vote.
call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, Andrew. I didn't expect that. All those in favor? All those not in favor, sorry.
She's
No, I
getting
don't.
in there. She's getting in there.
You'll definitely bring some
I think you got a
levity to the
4-0. Are
board.
you gonna abstain?
And I'll abstain. There you go, thank you.
4-0-1.
Excellent, thank you. I need
Congratulations.
that practice. Bear with me.
Are we going into nominations for a vice chair now?
I believe we should.
Yes.
I
I will-
make a motion for Heidi Ames to be vice chair.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All those in favor as Heidi Ames as co-chair? Say aye.
Discussion.
Co-chair?
discussion.
Whoa! What just happened here? Slow down.
I guess let's have discussion.
All right, discussion.
You're turning red again.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you have to
Do you want to be vice chair? I mean, I was going to nominate you. It's up to you.
I just nominated you.
Okay. All right.
Do you accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination. Scarily.
All those in favor as Heidi Ames as co-chair of the Litchfield School?
Vice chair.
Vice chair, sorry.
Yeah, right.
Really?
Vice chair, yeah.
Vice chair of the Litchfield School Board, say aye.
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 I'm abstaining.
Abstaining 4-0-1. Thank you.
Congratulations to
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you have a paper copy of the agenda?
I do.
Is there
With
one
all
up
my
there?
computers in front of me.
And none of them work?
If I may, Liz?
Yes.
So first of all, thank you all for that process. It's never easy, so thank you for taking that on. I want us to pause a second while we talk about school board roles, to also have a dialogue about the role of those of us who are hired to support the board. Because again, along the theme of divisiveness, and we've heard this from the audience, and it's been here at board meetings, I think we really need to realize that the superintendent is a de facto member of the school board. You hire me to run the schools, but I cannot be effective sitting in a chair over there. I cannot be effective if I'm not being included in communication, which has happened repeatedly. I need to be a part of working together as a team. And the allegation that I'm running things, I mean, I'm running the schools, right, consistent with every policy you've written. And if you change those policies, we'll change the way we run the schools. So, but you have to recognize that the only way it works is by collaboration and by working together. And, you know, I have a role to play, Doug has a role to play, Michelle has a role to play. We're not, the elitist attitude of we're hired staff who should be heard only when asked is really quite offensive and is contrary to the entire way school boards and school administrators are structured and should be working. So I appreciate that we need to continue to work ahead. And I think my commentary on collaboration with other boards, so I'm new to Litchfield. I come from a small town myself, by the way. I understand small towns. But I've never seen such a level of hostility aimed at people in terms of other committees. It's time people realize that, I learned in kindergarten, you're gonna get more bees with honey than you are with vinegar. And the amount of vinegar that was thrown on me initially in terms of the approach, being yelled and sworn at by budget committee chairs, by and budget committee members who are demanding things and talking about past practice and so forth. And it's like, can we just present our budget? Can we just stay focused on what it is that we need to do? You can watch a budget committee presentation by the town, and it's a collaborative conversation that takes place. And the minute the school occupies the seat, the tone changes on the dime. Watch it, play it back, just watch how that occurs. We are treated as, I don't know what, it's unbelievable to me as a professional coming into the community, hired to do a job. I've never been anything but respectful. I try to be clear. I try to be honest and open in everything that we do. But I also have 1,001 moving parts going on at any one time. And so I miss some things, as anybody would in those roles, and we clean it up and we move forward. We're a learning organization that tells our teachers it's okay to make a mistake and then learn from that and move forward. We need the same grace extended to us as we do our job. And we have to start working together as a team, including with the town. And I implore the budget committee, the select board, everybody to recognize we are running an incredible operation and we do a darn good job every single day. Every single day we're doing a really good job. And we can get better. And I've always been committed to getting better. And I just ask if everybody can get back to the extending of grace. If I'm not being clear or providing something that's being asked, ask me again. Remind me. Say it differently. Give us an opportunity to do the job that you've hired us to do. Because that is the only way. This is a great little town. And where we are as a community right now does not feel good. And we all have to pull and start pulling in the right direction. So I appreciate you listening to that. I thank you all. I hope that folks that are on the committee have also heard that and take it to heart so that when we go forward this year, we're truly working in the best interest of the community to get the best school system that we can.
Time for a clean page, Liz.
Yes. General business, 6 o'clock, not even close.
It's okay.
Public minutes. Public minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 7th, 2022 public minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5, aye. 5-0-0.
You got this, girl.
Gotta get you an abacus.
Public hearing, September 7th, 2022. The draft minutes require approval from the school board.
Do we need to do this as 3 separate motions because there were 3 separate public hearings, or can we do it as one swoop? Okay, then I will make a motion to approve the public hearing minutes from September 7th, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Aye.
You're on a roll, 5-0-0.
Here we go. Business and operations. Financial and operations update from our new Doug Totten.
So I'd like to link this with the second bullet as well, discuss the root cause of capital project overspend and corrective actions.
Okay.
So I don't have anything presented as far as financial updates. Everyone got the detailed expenditure at the start of the month. That's something that I plan on continuing to do at the start of every month. So, we're at the second meeting of the month, so I don't know if we want to talk about root causes first. I didn't have anything planned for root causes myself to talk about with that. I was more going to focus on the corrective actions and hearing from people what they need in order to be comfortable with your positions of making decisions on the board.
In terms of the root cause, though, can we talk about, what the auditors are looking at in terms of what we think we're gonna get from them?
Yeah.
And how else, I mean, if there's anything, if there are any other parties we need to bring in, maybe it's the attorney that we had, like, maybe a statement from the attorney in terms of what, you know, what he found, some of his findings. I personally would really like to see a written report, a third-party written report of exactly, like, the full picture of what happened. And then, cause for me, that will help, that
Transparency.
would help suggestions going forward too.
I think one of,
And we don't wanna wait till March,
I think there
you
needs to be
know?
2 reports if we can. I had this noted as well, right? So we have our annual report on the numbers, right? That report, fine, give it, you know, for the regular school operating budget, give it to us in March. I'd love for the external auditors, with all the work that they've been doing on this issue, to also issue a separate report directly related on this issue. If that's possible. Should be.
I think it should be possible to do that, and I don't know if we want that. Plus, I've also heard a third party, which would not be necessarily the auditors, in my opinion, that'd be somebody
Right.
independent from the auditors, from us, from legal.
I just feel, I mean, the auditors will be able to look at the numbers and find out what happened there, right? But they don't know the process end of it, or, I mean, maybe somebody else can look at the timelines that we put together.
I think they
Do you think that they'll have a full picture? Do you know?
The auditors?
The auditors
you
should have a
think
very
that-
full
Yes,
picture.
I agree.
And that, to me, is a third party.
I
To me,
agree.
they're one and the same.
Okay.
all right, I think one of the reasons, I don't know if you know this, Doug, but you're a very popular man in Litchfield. Now,
I told him this week.
yeah,
this week.
so don't let it out of your head or anything, but I think one of the reasons that people listen to you is because you are that third party, that new person who came in with no preconceived notions, you didn't know anyone personally, you came in, you saw this, you did exactly the right thing with what you should do, and so I think that's compelling to folks and they're listening to you because of that. And I view a third party, I don't know if it would be an auditor or an investigator, and I would want to know the cost of this first, because again,
Right.
we are trying to have a very frugal year, obviously, with what we're facing, but at the same time, I know there are people in town, there are residents that want to see more as to why this happened, and coming from any of us might believe that it's flavored in some way, and so I'd rather have someone who doesn't know the district, who doesn't know the people in the district, come in. But again, I also don't want to spend $100,000 on that either. That defeats the purpose. And so I guess I don't know exactly what I'm looking for. Is there a, I don't
Which
want
is why I was thinking maybe the attorney, because he already has a sense of the scope of the project.
he knows us though. He's works
Oh.
with the district, and his firm
Yeah.
works with the district, and
And
so
he's
I don't
advised-
know.
He's advised the district.
Yeah,
in this
that's
whole
true.
thing.
I don't
Okay.
think I don't think it'll
Yeah.
carry the weight that I would want it to carry
Yeah.
with town if it came from the attorney.
Plodzik and-
Yeah, or even an independent, but again, if we get into a forensic auditor, and I mean, I just know from my work how expensive those are with personal budgets, let alone in a district. There's a lot of financial pieces. So I guess I would want to look into what that cost would be, number one, but number two, there needs to be certainly findings from the auditors. Yeah.
And maybe we even have the auditor come in and present to us, if that's an option. Because it's one thing getting this very long and thorough report, it's another to have it summarized, I think,
Yeah.
into digestible pieces for.
Is there any, this is not a good question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Is there anyone in the state that does this type of work? I mean, I know when this happened, we contacted the state and let them know what was going on. It wasn't them contacting us, it was us contacting them saying this is happening. Is there anyone in the state that could come in, again, neutral, not someone who is in the district, that could give their findings?
We could check, and by the state, you mean at like the Department of Ed?
Department of
or-
Ed, or yeah, something.
They're, unfortunately,
DRA.
they're all
Yeah.
buried
Yeah, they're
in
understaffed. Okay.
DRA.
It was just a thought to avoid a costly private auditor coming in. But that may be what we need to do to
Said it right.
demonstrate that, again, I think the very clear picture, and I hope by the end of Monday people got, there was no fraud, there is no money missing, there was no money misspent, meaning putting to someone's personal bank account or house or finances. There isn't concern about that. You've independently verified with all vendors related to the construction
projects,
project,
yeah.
right? You've contacted them individually, so there isn't anything along those lines.
Throughout all of this, there's not been a whiff of that. I mean, we've pursued it as deeply as you can. You're talking, if you look at the overall vendor list, it's hundreds, right?
Yeah.
And so, but there's not a sense at all.
I just think it's clear, I think I wanted to reiterate that one more time as we have this conversation, because,
Third party, yeah.
yeah, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, but.
So, I talked to the auditor, well, I've talked to the auditor several times a week, during one of the conversations.
You have them on speed dial at this point?
So, we talked about the third-party report. Their belief at that time, the auditor's belief at that time, was that it wasn't necessarily needed because they would have a detailed report. So I can get more information on that, like if you're talking about a detailed report, which is already part of our audit, or a detailed report if we want a little bit more in depth that we would have to pay a little bit extra for.
Yeah.
So I can call back and get more specifics on that.
I would be
And
interested,
then-
I think it would go a long way with town relations. I think the budget committee would appreciate probably looking at that, so that they can wrap their heads around some of the numbers. I don't know, just a thought.
And then as far as a third party, I don't know if a good place to start would be with a retired BA, somebody who's been retired recently, where they could come in, you know, and look at things and just kind of put together a timeline as well, so I could
That's an idea.
see if there's a conference this Friday, so I can talk to some people then and kind of put out some feelers about that, and then again about cost for that as
Yeah.
well.
Thank you.
Are you going to the School Boards Association budget session on Friday? Is that what you're talking about?
There's a business administrators conference on
okay.
Friday.
Oh.
Yeah, PD thing, yeah.
Can we just go back to the, financial operations? The spreadsheets you're gonna show us, will they be the exact spreadsheets you're showing the budget committee? Or
So,
sharing with the budget committee? I want them to look exactly the
If
same.
I may, to explain the process as I understand it, and I think we should consider whether we want to adjust this, but Doug will prepare a monthly report to the board. That will be a public document, as it has been. It will be a public document. And after the board receives the report, it will go forward to the budget committee. Right? So once it's a public document, I mean, the budget committee can get it as a public document at that point, or members, but it will then go forward to the budget committee. If there are questions back on that or any other document, then those questions go back to the board chair, where they're forwarded to me and to Doug. And so again, we're answering to the board chair. I'm sorry, I'm looking here. I gotta look over there. And that's the communication flow. So then everybody is aware of what the questions are. And it's very clear, you know, what it is that's being asked. And frankly, if our rep to the board, to the budget committee is not understanding something, can't explain it, then that's where the clarity has to occur, to make sure that we know exactly what it is that was asked and exactly what the answer is.
Full transparency.
It's, I believe it's been operating that way, but I think we need to make sure that that's the process. And the one thing that cannot happen is emails directly to the BA without the board chair knowing, without me knowing. We have to make sure that we're all just in the loop on it, right? So that we know what the questions are and we can get them answered. And we cannot be having meetings between meetings. And by that, I mean virtual email meetings where we answer a question before the next meeting, and then we get 3 more questions based on the answers to the questions. So what we're doing essentially is having a meeting online through email, and I think we have to stop that. I think we have to make sure that we're responding, and that it's clear to everybody.
So the budget committee chair should be emailing Liz.
Board chair.
And then probably copying Andrew. And I just want to make sure if Andrew can't go to budget committee meetings that I'm in the know of what's happening. So if if I then get copied, it's a quorum. Does that matter?
Well,
Or,
I mean, it's as simple as, these are the questions from the budget committee, and they can be shared with the entire board. I mean, they're questions, right?
Okay.
And we're gonna respond to the entire board then.
Okay,
And we
perfect.
just have to disclose that, but everybody's in the loop. It cannot be a series of one-off emails that have been occurring, so.
okay, good.
I hope that answers the
Yeah.
the
And part of your
question.
question too was the actual report itself. So I sent 3 expenditure reports, knowing that different people want to get into different amount of details. So there was a summary one which is kind of in the middle, and then there was a detailed one as well. So it's a detailed one which matches up with what the town had been giving the budget committee. And that's what the budget chair had shared with me in July, so that's where that kind of came from.
Consistency, I like it.
So that will continue, so that's something that definitely will continue. As we look at corrective actions, we gotta see what else people want for information as well. So, I mean, I also plan on continuing with, and those reports, I just pull out of e-finance. And then, you know, I'm gonna continue though to also pull out the dental and the health from that, and provide that as its own type of table on the bottom. But other
They're
than that,
live documents.
they are just right from e-finance, that like PDF type of thing that I don't touch at all. So when I pull out the dental and health, I do that before the report is printed.
That's great.
So I don't do it after the report is printed, I do it before the report is printed. And then I just look at those numbers myself and I add that table at the bottom. So that will stay consistent. Now, the next part as far as.
Can I just explain for everybody, what does pulling out dental and health mean? I wanna make sure we're totally clear on what's being pulled out and why.
So when I started applying for the job in Litchfield, I was impressed by the transparency that was online with the budget. Because not only did you have each line, but you also had shown for each line kind of the breakdown of things as well. So the notes section of that, which is great. But what I also noticed was that there are groups of teachers that come together for a budget, and then there are single people that come together for their own budget. And in my opinion, I believe that their health and dental, what they elect for that, should kind of stay with them and their family. So I want to give that transparency, which is important for me and important for the town, but not that over transparency. So when I pull it from the report, it's beforehand. I think it's like accounts 210 and 211. So I say run the whole report except for 210 and 211. So that's what I put in there. And then I don't touch the report after that. That report then becomes what everyone's seeing. And then at the bottom of that table, I run the report with 210 and 211 for myself, and I add that into the table at the bottom. I add up all of the for health and all of them for dental type of thing, and they come together at that point.
Andrew, can I ask you a question with respect, with your history as a budget committee member? Do you find the new way that, the new setup for the reports to be helpful?
Yeah. Look, I mean, it's direct and accurate from the finance system, which is the exact same process as the town. Yeah, it's a different format, but it's a different system, right? So that's cool.
Okay.
I think in order to streamline the process even a little bit further, why not just have your BA report in a folder, have your e-finance report in a folder, you post it, and it's a self-help, right? The budget committee can go there, make it available. If we want to send out the link once a month just so they have it fresh in their inbox, fine, but all the information is right there at their fingertips at any point in time.
I agree.
The other thought I would have is, I mean, as the budget committee rep and then backup rep, I'm sure, sure this is gonna be a topic of conversation in your next budget committee meeting. Can you find out if there are any other items that they're looking for as, you know, all of the members? Is there any?
Sure. I'm gonna resign from the budget committee as well as CIP tonight, so we're gonna figure that out.
Okay.
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 So September was kind of the easiest month to run that report for, because we didn't meet, the first meeting for the board was on the 7th, which, you know, was the latest it can go for the first meeting. So if we look at something like November, the first time we meet is the 2nd of November. So I can't pull that report until the 1st. So I can definitely, and I will pull it on the 1st, but it wouldn't give necessarily board members a long chance to look at it before that first meeting. I just wanted to get that out there as well. It doesn't mean that if people don't ask me questions on it on the second when the meeting is, that they can't obviously ask me questions on the 16th. I just wanted to point out that if I pull it after a month, some board meetings are gonna be easier because you'll get the information sooner, and some you'll get it more close, right up to the date.
And if I could just interject, what Doug is explaining is part of the reason why there may have been inconsistency in previous report timing, right? I know the board wants it on the Friday, but if you're dealing with an end of the month kind of report pulling, that may not have cycled well. I'm not providing that as the only reason. I'm just saying that, you know, I think we just have to decide. If we say we're gonna give you that report at the second meeting of every month, so that there's ample time to pull it, post it, you'll have it well in advance. I mean, that's the kind of sequencing that maybe makes more sense versus what I think was happening in the past is depending on when the month ended, when our meetings were, when it could get pulled, the idea that you're gonna have it ready on the Friday didn't happen, and sometimes it got posted on the Wednesday. And that's not right.
I just want a clean
but-
month. I don't want it like pulled on the 5th of the month. You know what I mean? That there's those as long as if you can commit to doing it by the second meeting of the month, I think that is.
And if you know that report is clean as of the last day of the previous month, and you're getting it on the Friday in advance,
Yeah.
that will,
And that will
wanna make
match
sure
what the town is doing too.
and it'll match with the budget
Changing
committee
that.
meetings, because you
Yeah.
would be getting it on the second, or the third Wednesday. And they meet on the fourth Thursday, right? So sequencing wise, you know, that might be a regular routine that we can establish that just makes this
Thursday, and
easier to
they're
work with.
Meeting weekly.
So I think the
tomorrow.
town is a little bit different, and maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the town gets it weekly.
Not
Weekly
anymore. They changed it. It was changed.
Yeah, it was changed recently, yeah.
Yeah.
That's at the
They
request
just
of the budget
changed it.
committee.
Yep.
So it's a monthly report now.
Yes.
And I think the monthly is cleaner, because
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
As we're continuing to talk about corrective actions, I think something that came up on Monday was the manifests. And one thing I think that would be helpful for me when reviewing the manifest is if there could be a cover sheet that shows what we've used from that budget line item and how much is left in that budget line item. Is that complicated?
Well, I agree, but we have manifests on our agenda, so I wasn't gonna talk about manifests until that comes up.
Okay, but I feel like it's a corrective action.
If you wanna
But
go there, I'm
going
cool.
for it.
If you wanna go there, I'm
I
cool,
mean-
because I wanna revisit the whole summary thing again.
I feel like
Like-
if we had seen, and I don't know how to, I don't wanna make more work for you, so let me be very clear on that. But
Number
if we
6.
had some sort of printout that said that the
Oh,
budget
yeah,
for
I was looking up
paper
here.
is $10,000 and this series of checks that's going out falls here, this is where we're at, I don't know. I'm trying to be, is that
yeah.
too much work?
I think it's a good question, but I think it's very difficult, because within a manifest and within a school budget, there's just a lot of
Those are bills that are
lines.
already committed
So-
and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like
So-
the board, they meet before their meeting, they
Yeah.
review the manifest, and then when they come out of their non-public to review manifest is when they start, and they go right into a manifest summary in review,
I like that.
right? That's no different than what the board does today.
The select board?
Yep.
Huh.
interesting.
So can you repeat that again?
So, the select board, when they meet, right, and they cover manifest as well on the town side, they do it typically in non-public at the beginning of their meeting, right, start time. They come out of non-public, when they go into public session, it's typically a review of the manifest items, what was voted on and approved in the manifest itself, so it's full transparency, and they do that right at the start, right out of the gate.
So
Kinda,
how long do we think we would need
That was my
for
next
that? Because the tricky part is that sometimes the manifests are like this big,
Yeah.
and sometimes they're,
They're not that-
Well, that's where the summary would help, right? And so if you say manifest review 30 minutes before each meeting, right, or adjust or start, whatever, at least it gives the board to get aligned for that first 30 minutes on what is in the manifest, and then you come out of that session and then you present it. I'm sure the board can, there's a board member in the audience, I'm sure they'll share their perspective on how that works if you'd like.
so in regards to the summary, what would board members be looking for that to entail?
For me, I'd love it on, again, the Friday before or a couple days before, so I have a summary of, here's payroll, right? Here's construction costs, here are the checks that are going out, just in a high-level summary, not all the details that are typically provided. We can talk about that when we review it. So when we get to the meeting, yep, we have a $100,000 check and it's going here. Yep, we have a $10,000 check and it's going here. Yep, we had a $2,000 Eversource bill and here it is. Right, so we'd have at least some summary I can tick and tie and have it without going through page by page.
I think we suggested having the manifest available on Friday, but there were some,
Yeah.
there were some problems
'cause
with that
yeah.
about, you know, the day payroll goes out and those kinds of things. Is that,
We added items to the manifest today, things that need to get paid. So we're trying to get, Ann's very accurate and very precise with it, but she wanted to make sure that it was all-inclusive because we don't get a whack at it for 2 more weeks, so we want to get it right. I'm wondering, though, if we can look to see if there is like a manifest summary report. So after you've run it, you know, is there a simple report that just generates that? So let us dig in and see, because I think there's a lot of underutilized features of the software. And again, fresh eyes on it. See if we can dig in and get something like that.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
I know it was mentioned on Monday, creating another oversight committee, and I would like to discuss that at some point. I don't know if this is a time or place.
I think it's the time
And
and place.
No offense,
Start discussion, yeah.
no offense,
You're
Dr.
gonna become
Jenny,
very
but
close to a lot of us.
we need just another set of eyes, whether it's a committee, whether it's like Andrew just coming in and going over it, or Heidi or Tara, whatever. Does anyone have any thoughts on an oversight committee?
Should not be me.
Okay,
Because
community
of-
members,
Because
school
of
board
any
members?
independence issues with being on the board, right, and identification, it should not be me. That was clear during the audit process when I had offered my time, right? And I was advised not to help because I needed to maintain an independence from the board perspective.
Okay,
No
that's
different-
fair.
No different here. There are several community members that have expressed interest in being a part of that. I think certainly it's worthwhile taking up those community members.
It shouldn't take long, should it?
Well, I guess my question is, and I don't know really the full scope of the facilities committee. Is that like a repurpose of that committee? Is it an extension of that committee? Is it just focused on,
Buildings?
financial oversight board means the entire budget. Are we limiting it just to projects? Do we need an oversight of the entire school budget? I don't think we need it to that extent.
It's just another level of insurance, so something like this never happens
Right, but
again.
that's the budget
Yeah.
committee's job, right? So
Yeah.
are we asking, and if we provide a regular rhythm and mechanism for the budget committee to receive expenses and to have access, and we're talking about transparency, that's great.
So you wanna use them as oversight instead of.
That's their job, right? But for capital projects specifically, I think it makes sense.
I agree with that.
To have an oversight committee.
Yep.
I see.
But I don't know if that's an extension of what's already talked about in facilities, if it's something completely different. Do we need a separate committee, is the question. Do we change the scope? I don't know.
I think if I may, I think those are good questions. I think I would want a separate committee, having been on facilities, but only for 6 months. I feel like the flavor of those conversations is more what's going on. Yeah, it's more facilities based, meaning like the actual projects that are happening versus financially based. You know, it includes, you know, Dave Ross and some other people on it, who are great, but I don't know that they want to review numbers necessarily. When I had suggested this earlier in the week, my thought was I wanted a board member on it, and so I would like to flush out why that might not be a good idea, because we see the manifests, which are an incredible level of detail when you look through all of them. And then we see the monthly budgets, which have their varying level of detail. My thought would be to have a board member who can deep dive into these issues. Maybe sit in, we have our Windy Hill, which is our, that you go over invoices with, maybe they sit down on that. I don't know. And again, I don't want to get too specific, but I also at the same time want to have more eyes on the capital improvement part of things.
So I think one of the things I find confusing is that all of the projects were under one account, and so I think the first step is if it's possible to separate them out. I mean, maybe they're all, I don't know how you account for them, but separate them into different,
Almost like a separate
projects.
column on that
or even
spreadsheet,
phases too,
Canopy.
because, yeah.
right? LMS windows, roof, phase 2. Yeah, and then that's the next step, is now we need to tie everything that we spent back to what was voter approved. But we need to get that level of analysis first by project.
It's not that we don't trust you, Doug.
No, I got you.
I know, there's a lot.
So I do appreciate how we're kind of focusing in on the capital projects, because the general fund has been, it's never been overspent. Money has always gone back to the taxpayers as many years as I've looked back, type of thing. So, kind of focusing on the capital projects does make sense. I think we luck out that this year it's gonna be simpler in nature to begin with, as we put a hold on, the elementary school.
Yeah.
There's not gonna be, there's not money going out to that extent anymore, and North Branch is more of a known this year too. So the people, if we do have citizens on it, hopefully they'll see that it's not an overburden, because it is gonna be simpler in nature this year to start off with.
Part of the equation is if we're able to separate out, as we need to, the rest of the projects currently going. I think another important piece to that is having, where do we think we're gonna land at the end of the year? And, do we have updated quotes from Windy Hill or whoever else? Like, the ones that you've identified may go up. Like, have we started to have discussions with them? Where do we think we're gonna land, just to help to try to project? So then your conversations at the, the district and building levels in terms of where are we gonna try to find these dollars can have some, we can plug some numbers in there and really try to
So-
look at where it's gonna come from and how much we're over.
Yep, definitely good points. So Windy Hill, they finished up their thoughts as far as how much they go up. Mike and I haven't had a chance to kind of look that over together yet, and with Dave himself. I will let you know that all of our vendors have, once we made them aware what was going on, they're definitely watching everything they do, because again, they chose to do this for a school. And at the end of the day, they want the school to be well for the kids that occupy it, and the adults that occupy it as well. So they have all been very mindful of anything moving forward. And they also know that we've been looking at it quite a bit as well, because we want to make sure that we have the information to report back to people, whether it be the board or the town. So Windy Hill is one of the key ones, so we'll have a chance to look at that either this week or early next week about that.
This is somewhat related, but partially not related. One of the pieces of information on the prior BA reports that I found helpful was when we would see we've spent 91.7% of our budget compared to last year, where we were at 95.73 at this time. Again, it's a gauge. It's not perfect. There may be expenses up front, and I get that, but that is helpful for us in terms of, if I see those numbers somewhat in line, I'm thinking this is similar to last year, at least in the general fund, thinking this is similar. Whereas if those are extremely out of whack, that's gonna at least create a red flag for me. So I did want to tell you that I thought those parts of the BA reports were helpful.
Does anyone
The
else have
budgeting
any
piece of it.
comments?
Yeah.
I have one comment. Mrs. Douglas raised a comment on Monday, and, I'm not well-versed in the contracts side of the world at all. I'm not gonna pretend to be. But in these contracts, it was mentioned that there's likely a validate or not to exceed contract, but it has a certain date parameter around it, and what happens if we exceed that date?
So we met with North Branch today, right? So, just so you understand our workflow, we were in a meeting from 10 to 1. We were going through every single aspect of the project, getting updated on timelines, budget requests, change orders, et cetera. So all of that was covered in our conversation, and I asked that specific question of North Branch. I said, we have a guaranteed maximum price. My answer the other night would have been, the word guarantee means it doesn't exceed that, ever. And I said to North Branch, is that correct? And they said, absolutely. You will not pay us anything more than that amount. And I said, how do I explain the fact that we have a change in the way the project's being done? It's taking way longer than we thought, so that's gonna cost more. And I said, we have a member of the public who has experience in this who says that's gonna result in a change order with increased costs. And they said, no, it's the same work duration, spread out over a longer period of time. But when we finish this part of the project, we are demobilizing and we are pulling out of the school in whatever the date is, and then we're gonna remobilize in the summer to finish up the kitchen. But the work duration is identical. And if we were doing the kitchen at the same time we were doing all this other stuff, we would have how many more employees on site doing that work? We wouldn't be doing the same amount of work with the same crew, so we've mobilized our crew to adjust to that. So I said, so at the end of the day, the GMP is the GMP, and the answer was, you have our word on it. So just to answer that question.
So when they do remobilize, they plan on obviously remobilize in a lot smaller way, because I think that cost goes more to them. I mean, if they demobilize and then they have to remobilize, that's more of a part of their contingency cost for the project.
I think as just to close the loop on that point, if I could request a few bullets in an email, no more than 10 minutes of time, that way it can be shared with Ms. Douglas, and we'll close the gap. Please.
An email from
Yeah,
Dr. Jetty?
correct.
Or from Northbridge?
From Dr. J, yeah.
Could you summarize what I just said?
I'm gonna watch it on
Michelle?
replay, and yes.
How about we just share the minutes? How's that? Thank you.
Can certify a.
That's
an
actually true.
excerpt of the minutes.
They're gonna be in the minutes, and you put those minutes up pretty quickly, so it's
Yeah.
copy paste.
There you go.
They'll be up, but if they want certification, I can certify.
Perfect.
So going back to the oversight committee, I feel like we started it and then we kind of jumped off, and that might have been my fault, but how are we gonna select community members to be on it? Do we want them to send in emails, to volunteer? How do you wanna facilitate that?
Can I just weigh in for a second? This is a town with an incredible oversight committee called the Budget Committee. We already have a financial oversight committee. So we can add another oversight committee, or we can focus on clear, transparent communication with the existing oversight committee. And I just,
I do have a thought around that.
if we just double down on really making sure that the oversight committee is getting what it needs, and then if it isn't, if we feel the need for more, we can go that route. And I'm also hearing two kind of oversights. There's the budget oversight, which I think exists. There's the project oversight, and I think the project oversight, we do have the facility committee, and if there's a different ask, we've been going in with 30,000-foot numbers, right? And if you want us to come in with 10-foot numbers, let us know that, because we can get more granular in what we share with facilities, which is, I mean, there's a select board member on there, there's a budget committee member on there, there are community members on there. I think maybe just doubling down and saying, let's change the way we report there will help us.
Can we try it for a little while and get, Andrew, you can report back if that's satisfactory when you're on the budget committee?
Sure.
Or we hear from the budget
Or
committee.
the budget committee talks
like
to us
more.
what we're missing, what they want another level in between us and them.
I think the other thing that I know other districts have done is when they have a capital project, is rather than the superintendent and the BA taking it over, they hire a clerk of the works. Is that kind of the responsibility to oversee the budget and make sure that the project is off of your plates and being?
Yeah, I mean, more off of our plates, but it would always be on our plates.
Right.
I
That
think
would be another set of eyes.
we didn't call, well, on this one though, Dave Ely's really,
He's the
he's
owner's
not
rep.
the owner's rep on the middle school project, because he's the designer of it.
Right.
So I think
You have a commissioning agent though?
we have a commissioning agent, but it's not the same. The commissioning agent's really just testing the HVAC equipment to make sure it's properly done. So I mean, maybe that was a miss, because we kept Dave on as an owner's rep for the GMS project. And he's done great work with us on that. Maybe that was a miss, not having somebody, I mean, Dave's doing a phenomenal job, trust me, in terms of going through the books, but, at LMS, but we don't have that separate role.
But it might just be another layer of oversight on these projects, you know.
But how
Yeah.
much does that cost? A clerk of the works
I think for the most part, towns have clerk of the works for bigger type projects. I don't know if they would have had one necessarily for the size project at LMS, not that it wouldn't have been beneficial.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think as you look to do incremental changes, which, those bigger incremental changes which happen at LMS can kind of handle that. It's more of those, I'm building a new school or I'm totally renovating
Yeah,
the school.
I think it's
where
because
they-
it's midstream. I don't know if that makes sense at this point,
Yeah,
but certainly.
yeah. But as
should
things
and
are
when.
completed, it'll at least,
It's gonna start rolling in the summer, lots of stuff, that's when we need. I say we give it till Christmas and revisit thoughts with the budget committee and.
So I do have a thought about the, how to better work with the budget committee. And it was actually something I brought up about, I think it was a year ago, when, it was in regards to the special ed fund. And I just think that, we're all very new. And you're new, and, there's a lot of changeover on committees, and we've talked in the past that, the school board is held, to decisions for things that we didn't even make years ago, like things linger on, but the problem is, if you're new to committees, you don't know what those past practices are, and you don't know what some of the assumptions are working with other committees. So I feel like coming up with a memorandum of understanding, or we could call it a charter, like basically it's it's an understanding between the budget committee and the school board, how we're gonna work together. What are some of those assumptions? Reporting. I think we have it all set, but if we get it in writing, let's make, then hopefully the budget committee can all agree on what they want, and maybe it's an annual thing that gets agreed to each year and literally negotiated,
Ms. Harrison brought that up last year under, I guess it was called handshake agreements, if I call.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's where
the
they
budget
are.
committee.
And that's when I
the
proposed
budget committee
this.
didn't want to do it, so.
I know, but
It
you know
might be
what?
worth
It might
raising
be an
it up.
opportunity under the context that we're facing right now, that it might be a good.
I think there were some members who were interested in it, but it didn't fly as a.
I
Well,
wasn't
I
here
think
for
we
the
were-
football fiasco,
I-
but it
we-
comes up
I
all
think
the
we were
time.
also pushing it on them too. We were saying, if this is something that you want, then you do it, But I think what I'm proposing is we reach out and we be an equal partner in it.
And who writes that? Who writes it?
Maybe there's a joint, maybe there's a couple people from each, or,
I would recommend.
I would be happy to
I don't know.
participate in
Well,
that.
now that we have a new page, I don't think did we meet with the budget committee chair and vice chair this year? I don't believe we did.
We tried to host a joint meeting back in June.
Yeah.
I think Doug did.
Well, that was July, so early July,
Right.
right?
But it was, we were trying to get back to the old days of the select board, the budget committee, and the school
Right.
sitting down. And
That didn't happen.
the budget committee attended, but the select board did not. So we could try to reinitiate those. They used to be quarterly meetings, is my understanding. When my first year here, there was a quarterly meeting, and then they faded off.
Yeah. I think I would recommend that the chair and vice chair and superintendent and the business administrator rekindle those meetings, because I think that goes a long way to streamlining communications amongst those.
Because we currently meet with
legislative
fire
boards
and
in
police,
town.
and that's helped.
Right.
I think, in fairness to the select board, I think our timing, we were trying to get it in before the administrator, Troy, left. And I think that may not have worked. So I think that was
Okay.
a wrinkle in it,
Yeah.
but we should get back to that, in my opinion.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
We have 32 financial management policies. It's gonna be painful, but I think that we should review all of them. I think we should review the job descriptions for the SAU and then the office. Those are a bucket. There's 12 of them. The primary reason I say that is that I noticed that there was a discrepancy between the BA job description that was online and the job description that was posted. There's a different number of years experience. between that, and I just think it would be good for us to have a review of those. For school board members, if you didn't see it, the New Hampshire School Boards Association is having a budget training next Thursday. I'm signed up for that.
That's a good session.
So, and then my other question was in terms of, I mean, maybe it's not really corrective action, but maybe a helpful action. A year ago or so, Dr. Jetty, did you mention that there was a grant writing group that was forming and looking to help write grants? I thought there was a discussion about that. And I just don't remember ever hearing anything after
So
that.
I'm not remember, a
No.
local group or
Yeah, I
a
thought
statewide
so.
group?
I thought it was just
Mary
a
does a lot of the
friends
grant
of.
writing, right?
Well, so what Mary does, we get entitlement grants from the state. So they give us a certain amount of money, and then we're asked to decide how to spend that money.
Good.
So it's a little bit different than chasing a competitive grant, right? So, but we're always looking for grant opportunities. I mean, I could share with the board that, oh, we forgot to put this on the agenda, the
Safe grant.
SAFE grant, which was the school infrastructure grant. You know, again, while Doug was sorting all this out in July, he applied for money for SAFE grants, and we were selected in round one. Every project we put in as part of round one got funded. And so that's great. It's gonna enhance our schools. It's all about communication, by the way. It's all about enhancing communication within the schools, and especially with police and fire. So anyway, so that's grant money. We saw it, we chased it, and now we're waiting to hear on round two. And you take like the seed grant. The minute we saw that, I said to Dick, Dick, can you take this on? So we didn't have the capacity in-house to write that grant, but Dick was already on consulting. He was already aware of all our electrical stuff, and it's like, can you submit the grant? So it may have been an extra, 10 billable hours for him to do, but it resulted in $80,000. And so we're always pursuing those things, but I think if anybody ever sees a grant, just point us at it, and then we'll figure it out.
Can you guys just point me where on the agenda we are?
We're under
Root causes and corrective actions.
Yeah, under
General
business and operations.
the last thing on page one. Are we ready?
That's
to-
all I have to say.
All right, in the interest of
All right,
time,
I got
let's
it.
keep moving. Community reports, budget committee, Andrew.
Budget committee is meeting tomorrow.
You skipped over one.
What?
Committee charters.
Committee
Oh, committee
charters.
charters.
Sorry.
Those look good to me. You're doing that for the website, right? You're
effort
doing
to
that for the website.
In an effort to expand communication regarding committees of the board and district, committee chairs charters were developed which will provide information about each committee in one location. I thought they looked good.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't like things in italics, I skipped it, sorry. I don't read italics.
They're almost done. If you have feedback for us on those, let us know, but they're almost done, almost complete, and then eventually that chart will be on the website, so it'll be very transparent.
I just have a meeting schedule.
You can click on them.
Clickable links. So that shows what committees meet, when they meet.
Yeah.
And then if you click on it, it tells who chairs it, when, or where they actually meet and so
So
forth.
that's what's gonna be on the website,
Right.
right? So, a version of
Yep.
that, okay.
And then you'll be able to click on the agendas or minutes or however it is that they keep track of it so that you can see what's going on.
More transparency, the better.
I don't know if this is on or off topic. I know that we haven't really been using our Facebook page, and people are very active on Facebook, and I think we need to start putting things, I know they're on the webpage, but like the different committees, like wellness, I know people have been trying to get on, and they don't know when it meets, and if we could start putting stuff like that on.
So I nominate Tina, now that she has more time.
Too. Yeah,
We have,
Like,
happy
I'd
to
like
do
to
that.
see the agenda on there, committee meetings,
I have been
anything the public is
I've
welcome
been posting
to.
the agendas on the school board page, but if you have suggestions on what you'd like to put up there, just text me and I'll get it done.
Do you have any suggestions? Anyone? More information, the better.
I think it's good to pull stuff out of the principals' reports and put it on there, stuff that the community would be interested in. There's a lot of stuff in there. I mean,
the LEA
even the
is doing that
game,
right now.
even the games.
Yeah.
I run the class of 2023 page, and I pull out important things, like don't forget tomorrow's class colors day, like little things like that. So,
I see it a little bit differently, only because now we have CHS page, an LMS page, a GMS page that
true.
people are going to for that school-specific information.
But even just sharing it is another link and it's
Yeah.
another hit for the page, if you will. And so
Okay.
if we're sharing
Like
it from who
even-
already likes the school board page,
that would have meant, like Mrs. Douglas mentioned, that she didn't know about the meeting. She's on Facebook, she would have picked
It was
that up.
posted on the school board page.
Yeah. All right, budget committee, I'm sorry, Andrew.
So I was just saying, Budget Committee starts their weekly meeting cycle for the year tomorrow.
So that means your meeting,
No, I am resigning from the Budget Committee, and I'm also resigning from Capital Improvement effective today.
alrighty then. We will have to fill your spot after your resignation, I'm assuming? Are you gonna
I am formally resigning right now.
Oh,
Can you give us a couple weeks' notice? At least on the budget committee.
Tara, you're also on that committee?
I am, yes.
Would anyone else like to, back Tara up on the budget committee as a second when she can't make it?
I'll do it. I'll do it.
And the capital improvement, it was just you, correct?
Yeah, that one's far more infrequent. The next meeting is Monday, October 3rd, and on the docket is certainly the school presentation at that point.
All right. Does anyone else want to do the capital improvement committee?
Tina, do you want to do that
Um,
one?
I can do that one.
All right. All right.
Another change is I need to drop out of PERC
All right.
because the PERC meetings meet at the same time as the Facilities Improvement Committee meetings.
I can do perk.
You can do PERC?
Does Andrew have an interest in
Oh, do you want
PERC?
to do perk?
If it's during the day, I'm not gonna be able
Yeah,
to.
it's
I wish Andrew was here. I think it's right after school.
Andrew,
it's
you want
usually-
school start time? It meets so often.
Yeah, I can take that one.
Yeah, all right, so you can tell
All right,
me,
so,
Wellness and emergency management
So
both
that,
meet
yeah,
during
that
the
one's
day
at
too.
3:30.
Liz doing
I just got an invitation, so you're gonna do
Yes.
PERC, Liz?
3:30, yes.
All right, I'll send
Don't say
that
this
to you.
week.
No,
Okay.
next week, I think.
Fourth Wednesday.
And who runs that? Mary?
Mary,
Okay.
yeah.
What's that? Would you like to be on the grading and reporting committee, Andrew?
It depends what time they meet,
3:30 on.
yeah.
I think it's 3:30, quarter of 4. It could be virtual, though.
Those are too difficult with my work
Yeah.
schedule.
When do they meet?
Tuesdays,
Grading and
the
report.
third Tuesday of the month at.
Oh, look at your
3:30,
handy chart.
quarter of 4?
We have in the agenda.
How'd I do?
Sorry.
That
You
was
did
on
get it
the
right?
fourth
Okay.
page of the agenda.
All right.
But Mary had to cancel yesterday, so the next one will be in October.
All right, so we have
So who's doing grading and reporting? Tina?
Tina. Budget
What?
committee. Budget committee, Tara.
And Heidi.
As a
And
backup.
Heidi as a backup. Facilities, Tina and Heidi. Emergency management committee is you, Tara?
Yes.
Wait, how did I get signed up for grading and reporting?
Andrew, do you want facilities improvement?
When does that
If it's during
mean?
the day, I can't do it.
Okay.
These meetings, they're not conducive to those
They are not.
Yeah.
That work,
that
yeah.
work.
I get it.
Grading and reporting will be Tina and Heidi. Joint loss management, that also meets after school. I do that one. Perk, I will do. School start time, is Andrew now?
Yeah, that one I can do. Glad to help. I'm a team player, guys.
Do you want website
your
committee
breath.
too, Andrew?
What's that?
Don't hold
Do you
your
want
breath.
website committee too?
Website committee, when does that meet?
That should be finishing up, I think. We haven't had an update on that in a while. but-
sign up for
We had a meeting in June.
Definitely sign up for that.
Website will be ongoing. It's redesigning,
Ah,
but then
it's-
it's also.
They're in the designing
It's
phase.
gonna be a quarterly, review and just feedback and making sure that we keep
Can
it
I
up to
just
date.
tell you as a
I would
side
love
note?
that one. Can I take that one on?
Well, you could read the minutes and comment Yeah.
I went to go on the website today because I needed to call Michelle because the store was locked when I went to get in, and it was in the brightest blue font I've ever seen. I could not read the phone number
Which,
on the
district
school
one?
district page.
Every,
It was so hard to read. Can we
have
make
that-
it white? It was just so
I know,
difficult.
I have it, it's actually a darker blue darker than what you see, but unfortunately, when you're on the other side, the user end, I've seen
It's like
the same thing on my
I could not,
phone,
with
I
royal
know.
blue and
I
black,
don't-
you cannot see the phone number.
I have to call East Schoolview and see if they
This?
can control that.
Okay, here.
On a phone.
I
oh,
think
on
I
a
still
phone,
have it
on a phone.
phone.
Show me,
Phone
please,
is more magnified, yeah.
because it's black and white. That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
black and white.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Andrew, can you remind me when the next CIP meeting is?
You know why?
It's October 3rd,
They've turned into clickable links on the phone. so
and that
you can-
meeting
Yes.
starts at 6.
6
Unfortunately,
p.m.?
that's an East
And
Schoolview
we're
problem.
expected to present at that one?
I
Correct.
can make them, I don't know what color to make
Just
them.
change the background.
I can't, it's white on the web.
Then we don't want that website.
You talking about that? I can keep them white, if that helps.
Yes.
I think, I hope.
Yes.
To see.
You know what, I'm not gonna commit to that until
We'll-
I
we'll-
try it.
we'll
How's that?
adjust
I'm sorry, that was a side
This
note.
is
I
why
was
we need
just
a committee
complaining.
to do exactly that.
It was
So-
really hard to find it.
Can I get straightened out on who's doing what now? Okay, because I'm a little bit confused.
I'd like to know how many committees you all signed me up for.
Budget committee is Tara with Heidi as a backup. Facilities improvement is Tina and Heidi.
Yep.
I mean, I would happily give that to someone else, but again, it meets during the day.
Yeah.
And it's twice a month, so it's not even,
So Tina, if you can do that and then reach out to one of us.
If you need a
If
sub.
if you're not gonna be
Sure.
there, that
Yeah.
would
yeah.
be great. Emergency management committee is Tara. Grading and reporting is Andrew and Heidi.
No, I don't think Andrew. I thought it was
I'm on
Tina.
that one.
No, it's,
Oh, we wanted you to be on that one.
That was wishful thinking, Liz.
Can I be a backup on that one, Heidi?
You can be my.
I thought you said it was Tina and Heidi.
Yeah, I think it's me
Yeah.
It was me, so it's Heidi and Tina.
Can I be your
Joint
backup?
loss is me, perk is me, school start time task force is
Me.
Andrew. Website committee, Tina, but you would do that?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Thanks, Andrew.
Wellness committee,
Tara.
Tara, right,
Yep.
yep, and capital improvement plan is Tina. I can give this to you after the meeting.
No, I got it now.
So did you finish your
Thank
budget talking about, they're gonna start meeting weekly, but you're,
I didn't know there was anything more to say.
okay, that's fair
The
enough.
meeting weekly starting tomorrow. The actual town review tomorrow should be I think a not too bad of an agenda. The actual budget cycles start next week,
All right,
where budget presentations come in from the town.
right. Facilities
I think
improvement.
that's correct, Mr. Taylor, right? Yeah, thanks.
Facilities improvement committee,
We did meet. We met to go over the capital projects last week.
Oh, that's right, yes.
And I think that is part of the capital plan documentation later on, so
Yep.
I won't spoil the fun in a
Alright.
little while.
emergency management committee.
Homeland Security is going to be doing an audit this year in all of our schools.
Fantastic.
So that is good.
So that will be answered possibly some of Mr. Morrison and Mr. Barker's questions. That's excellent.
Correct. Yes, and that was
Awesome.
already scheduled, so.
Grading report.
See those emails?
Or is that?
We're not gonna say the dates, just cause we don't want, like, it's just,
Recommend
Alright, that's fine.
Grading and reporting did not meet.
They're in the
Joint loss
correspondence.
did not meet. Perk did not meet. School start time.
Did not meet.
Website committee. Tina, did that meet?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Website committee?
No.
Wellness committee.
wellness, our first meeting is on the calendar, is on the district calendar, on the website.
Are all welcome?
What?
Community
All
members?
are welcome to the wellness committee meeting, October 11th, 3:30 to 4:30 at the CHS Learning Commons. And we'll make sure that, Tina, I'll give you, or I can just put it up on I'll put it on our website.
All right, thank you.
As we get closer.
Town capital improvement plan committee. Andrew.
We watched that.
Yeah.
We watched that. Apparently we're meeting on October 3rd,
Okay.
and the school district will be presenting.
Did you get an official invite?
Not yet, but they don't, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, new business. NHSBA resolution. The board will provide decisions on continuing and proposed resolutions for the delegates' assembly.
So I did not necessarily feel any differently than the NHSBA Board of Directors recommendations. So I don't know if we need to vote on those, but I would fall in line with NHSBA's
Yeah, I
recommendations
agree.
on those.
Yeah,
Can somebody remind me, who's going to the delegate assembly?
It was either gonna be me or Andrew, right? You were gonna check to see if you could,
I can't do that.
okay.
It is like 10 degrees warmer out there than it is in here.
Is
freezing
it?
in here.
Freezing.
Okay.
Ray, can you pop up that?
This is great temperature.
All right, so,
I think it's perfect for a 53-year-old, but that's just me.
so it's October 1st, I can go.
Okay, so if there was a motion
Yeah.
to support the recommendations of the association, then Tara kind of knows what it is that she needs to do.
Yep. I'll make a motion to support the recommendations of the New Hampshire School Boards Association.
I second.
On the continuing resolutions, right?
On
And the
proposed,
On the
proposed
proposed
resolutions
resolutions.
as
both?
well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. Policies, first reading, EBBC, am I doing this right? JLCE, emergency care and first aid. This is our first reading.
so this actually came to the board at the last meeting, and there were some comments on it, and so we just took time to revisit it. And at this time, we didn't make any adjustments to it. Our feeling is that it's aligned with the model policy. We want to make sure that we're trusting our medical professionals to act according to their training. So we're suggesting that this go with the changes submitted, which is basically the insertion of the Ed 306 clause and just clarifying that we will get emergency contact info for staff.
Dr. Jetty, can you explain to people and the people out there why we're doing this and why we go over policies in first read and second read?
So, the policy are the marching orders. So again,
From-
you hire me to run
Yep.
the district, and you provide the policy structure and say, run it like this. And
Okay.
so, in this particular case, we are clarifying here that emergency care and first aid extends both to students and to staff.
Okay.
And we use the Ed Rule 30604, what is it, A21, to back that up, because that's what the rule says. So, and then this becomes the structure that our nurses in particular, but not only the nurses, will operate under.
And we have a first reading.
And the purpose of
Yeah.
the first read is so that the board can, in a very deliberate, I'm gonna say bureaucratic way, you get it out there and you get feedback on it, and then if there are folks in the public who have questions or comments, they're able to make them either on the first read or before the second read. So if we deliberately adopt policy slowly and openly, it just makes sure that we get it right and the marching orders are clear.
So I basically withdraw my comments from last time about this policy. I do feel comfortable that, I know that 911 was called recently at the high school, so I know that, you know,
That
they're-
literally happened the next day.
I know.
after you
So
brought
I know that that's
Jinxed us.
happening.
that up. No.
If-
More discussion on the medical emergency.
And, you know, I think the AED, we don't have to put it in the policy, but, you know, just note, just because we know first aid is, that's standard.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of EBBC JLCE.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Communications policy plan template from NHSBA.
So this is really quite drafty, because this is new from them. But
Is
we've given,
drafty a word?
it is,
I like it.
it is.
Quite
They've-
drafty.
They've given it to us as sort of a template, and that's what it is. It's a policy communication template. And, you know, I think I would ask us to give a look at it. There are places that need to be filled in on it. But the whole goal is really to have an overarching policy of how we'll communicate. And then if you look at EGR, so remember, EG is the policy, R is the practice. It's how we're gonna put that into place. And in the case of R, it gets a little bit more granular in terms of communication. So the board's been talking about this for a while. We urge you to wait until this template came out, and as soon as we got our hands on it, we got it in front of you. So I would actually encourage you to take the time to read it, offer comments on this one. I'm not sure if there are comments that were even made online, but we can bring it back for another first read with the comments filled in, if that's okay with the board. It's your call.
So I think I want to wait on voting on a first read on this. I did look through it, but I didn't understand the background of why it looked the way it did. And so I would like to now, knowing that, take a better first look at it.
I feel like this is a template, so it really needs to be filled in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is, there's a bunch of policies that I pulled that go with this. I have to make sure, we have to review them, and make sure they align, everything aligns.
Yeah. This is not a small project.
No.
You know.
Those are listed at the top, and you can see it's
There's a
probably
lot of
10
them.
different
Yeah.
policies,
Oh, I've
right? So-
literally
Yeah.
pulled them, so
Yeah.
that's how
Oh,
wide
wow.
it is.
Yeah.
Can you send those, are those linked to us that we
I
send?
can.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
I mean, I can go look them up too, but it would be,
No,
if you can just
no.
send them to me with a hyperlink on them,
What
that
I'll
would be
do is I'll
helpful.
put it in the board shared drive
Perfect.
by itself. Give me a couple of days to get that done.
That would be helpful. Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Right. At this time, I'd like to, have community input because it's close to
Ju-
8 o'clock.
I'm-
Or do we
just
have to
be-
wait until 8 o'clock?
Just before we close that, what I'm gonna ask then is, if you put the comments in the side, we'll bring it back,
Oh.
and it won't be drafty, it'll be a draft, and that's because we're gonna fill in all the
All the
holes,
templates,
right? So you'll get it back at that point, so we'll ooch our way into getting this right. But your comments in the side will then become, and I think we're gonna clean up like the adoption
Yeah.
revision notes, all that other stuff that's
Yeah.
on there, and get it into real policy form for you, so. So comment away on it, please, because that's gonna be the basis that we'll use.
I know we have still quite a bit. I welcome community input at this time. I'm sure all of you know me, but I'll say my name anyway. April Weber, Charles Bancroft Highway. Some of you sit here and talk about fixing the division within the board, and in the same breath, you attack one of your board members. Attack him. All of you. I'm completely disappointed in all of you. Andrew overwhelmingly won the residents, and you sit here and treat him like this. Shame on you, you all. Shame on you, all of you. Shame.
Because that was ugly, this is gonna be just a little ugly too, and I don't want it to be. I wanna address the open mic comment that was made. I learned of it yesterday, and I learned about it kind of late at night, and I went on and rewatched that meeting. And what I saw was a resident approach the desk. I heard her ask a question because my volume was up to 100. Okay? This wasn't like a hot mic like at the end of a lane. And she asked him how to get rid of the superintendent. And he said that would have to be done in a non-public session. The next thing that she said to him is how to get rid of the board. And he goes, you'd have to go to the court. He was in no way giving her a blow-by-blow way to get rid of you people. And he said us.
Get rid of me too, please.
He said us.
Free up a lot of time
And
on
I
my
think you
calendar.
need to, it was at hour 3:20. Okay, I think you need to listen to it. And I think for someone to run to Liz and say, he was trying to get rid of us, and he told somebody how to get rid of us. No, it's very Andrew to get a question and answer a question. It's who he is. Okay? I think you all know that. Ask Andrew a question, you're gonna get the answer. If he knows it, you may not like the answer, it may not be what you were hoping that he would do. Is he gonna protect you? He's gonna tell the answer because that's who Andrew is. hot mic aside, what I heard is on tape. You had to turn it up to 100. You had to be looking for it to find it. And that bothered me. The next thing I didn't like is that a hot mic, the person with the hot mic needs to be as careful as the person in the bathroom with people using the toilets, speaking negatively about residents who took their time to come forward and tell you how they felt about what happened. Okay? So that is...
I would take that. That was me. I was frustrated. I felt like I didn't know half the stuff was coming. I was personally told to quit my job and do all these look inside myself. Anyone who knows me personally knows what I'm all about.
saying, I'm just
I have
saying,
big
it's
mouth.
a...
My parents are from Southie. I can't help it.
I get it. Everybody in this situation said things more vehemently than they wanted to. People are villainized right now for saying what they thought. And you didn't like it. I'm sorry to hear that. We don't like that. We don't like that. There's a lot of things that we don't like. Okay? We all have to work together. What I saw happen was him absolutely get pounced on because of a surprise. Tonight, absolutely. Because of a surprise. And I'm just here saying we're opening a new page. We have a new chair. We have a board that's rearranged a little bit. We have a new BA. Let's really not look like the problems that we're accusing other people of. Really, it's not a good look. Okay? I absolutely went after Liz at that meeting because she shrugged her shoulders at a time when I was nervous and upset and having a tough time at the mic doing what I did. And I went up to the mic after and I apologized to Liz publicly for that. Okay? That's not who I am as a person. Okay? I apologized to her before and then publicly because she was standing there. I had an opportunity to say, listen, Liz, I love you. You work hard. Okay? If anybody I know, it's probably Liz and Andrew. They work hard. Everybody here works hard. But that was a bad look, you guys. For what you accused him of doing, y'all just did it. What you accused the public of doing, y'all just did it. Let's not do that again. We're moving forward. Fresh page. Next meeting. You're all aboard. You're all elected. None of you are more important than the other.
Ray Peoples, 205 Charles Bancroft Highway. Unlike Diane, I don't believe rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic is going to keep it from sinking. You guys still need to look into yourselves a little bit. As I started out the other night, first thing I did was apologize to you for what I was going to say. And I also thanked you for your service. It's a tough job. You guys are in a bad spot. And I don't think I'm going to make it any better for you. I think the committee that you guys need to form isn't you guys forming it at all. It needs to be the town. It needs to involve the select board. It needs to be equivalent to the February 6th commission and have a look at all the policies and practices as the school board and the board of selectmen to look into the policies and procedures, how money's transferred, who transfers it, when it happens. I understand that there's been some emergency transfers in the past where no one had planned for them. So I think there needs to be more work done, and you guys shouldn't be appointing these people. It shouldn't be, it should be independent citizens from this town that are looking at that. I was sitting watching at home, and I got in the car and drove down here because I was watching the piece where Andrew allegedly slammed the motion out into the public. I spent 5 years sitting in this room as a selectman. I can't tell you how many years sitting on the budget committee. A person can make a motion at a meeting. It doesn't need to be discussed with you beforehand. As a matter of fact, I would think that you guys are in violation of 91A if you are having those discussions beforehand, especially if there's 3 of you, constitutes quorum. And you should be very cognizant. People are going to be watching closely for this. I think moving forward, the only way you guys are going to get any redemption and trust is to help form this committee and get this stuff ferreted out and take a look at all the policies and procedures, and somebody needs to kind of do a root cause analysis because you're not doing it. This is not root cause. I don't hold you responsible. I hold him responsible. He wasn't here. But this man was in control of that, and he was in charge. And I know that's hard, and people on Facebook right now think that people like me are coming in here and enjoying this and beating you guys up. It's not. We're all concerned. This is a big deal. I have my grandchildren are in the system, so I have a dog in the fight. But more importantly, my daughters live here in this town, and they have a dog in the fight too, but I'm the one that's here being vocal because I want to get this figured out and I want to get it fixed. Too many things are happening in the schools right now that make people like me very nervous. And I want to tell you, him stepping down from the budget committee was one of the town's biggest losses. I spent a couple of years working with him on there, and he's second to none. So, I know you guys, I know you think you reorganized the deck chairs, but the Titanic's still sinking. This is not over. It's not done. You've just kicked the can down the road for the piece that's coming next.
My name is Bob Leary. I live at 172 Charles Bancroft Highway. I am a selectman in town. I am here on my own accord, not as a representative of my board, although I did speak with all my board members, and they all supported me coming here. You folks have created this atmosphere. It's your own doing, all of you, okay? And you guys are in a really tough spot, all right? I serve on a board. I know what it's like. I was a brand-new selectman, and we had people lined up out the hall coming in, just giving us a run for our money because of the road agent and the way he ended up leaving. We sat there and took it. I didn't know a darn thing about it. But myself and Kevin Lynch sat there and we took it. Steve Weber was the other member, was there. The other two were not. And that says enough about that. It's obvious that from the March elections, this board hasn't learned anything. They spoke overwhelmingly for Andrew. There was about 2,700 votes total cast. You vote for two candidates. He got 935, I believe, which is about 36 or 37%, I think. I was never a good math major. The next closest person, who's the former chair, just barely got back in over a relatively unknown person in this town, okay? That should have been a wake-up call, not only to her, but to the rest of the board, that people are demanding change in this town. But yet I watched the next meeting and it went right back to normal. Forgive me, but you don't belong at the head table. When we meet, we have 5 members at the table, selectmen right across, town administrator sits right there. He reports to us, okay? He's not the focal point of the meeting. He shouldn't be the focal point of the meeting. Troy Brown never was. Troy Brown was very involved, gave us all the information we need. Maybe we got spoiled by having him, but this is all wrong. Our minute taker sits in the audience, okay? Has absolutely no input to the meeting whatsoever. This is wrong. This is all wrong, folks. You guys are doing this bass-ackwards, for lack of a better term. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for my terminologies, but somebody made a comment tonight about you folks feel like people acted like you were dishonest and schmucks. Actions create image. When I came onto my board, the select board was looked very down on in this town. Can't tell you how many people came out to me and said, you've been in this town your whole life, your family's been here since the dirt was new, you guys need to get involved. We did, okay? And we've done a lot to change our image. And the biggest image we changed is with the budget committee, okay? We go in there, if they ask for anything, we make sure they have it within a day. I've asked for salary schedules for 3 years, and if Mr. Cutter wasn't sitting here, I still wouldn't have had them. I wanted a 3-year run. That used to be provided every single year. We always had a 3-year run. It was on paper. It was on the website. It was everywhere, but now we don't have it. I did a 91A. I'm told we don't have to do that because it's a report we don't do. Well, they stopped doing it. It should be done. That's transparency. I think this whole, the school itself has been as transparent as a brick wall. Okay, and I said that to the superintendent the other night. Point in case of that was I asked him about LMS. I said, was solar a want or a need? Did you need solar? He gave me 3 run around the barn answers. And then finally he said, I guess we disagree on what's a want and what's a need. In my opinion, it still wasn't needed, okay? But that's just the kind of, that's the image that you guys are creating, okay? You need to clean it up. Whether or not people step down or not is another issue. I give you kudos for stepping down as chair. I think it was a right move, but I agree with Ray Peoples. I don't think changing the deck is going to do anything. It's going to be the same. It was the same on March after the elections, okay? There are no fractions in this board that aren't self-inflicted, okay? He's come on, and like I said, he was put here with if there's a mandate, he got it. And he's been treated like dirt since he's been here. I watch him doing budget a couple meetings ago. He's recommending cuts. I see the former chair and the superintendent whispering to each other the whole time he's presenting. That's just not courteous. That's just not courteous. And then they speak against it, and you guys follow and vote it down. It's like you guys don't have an independent mind. We have a lot of disagreements on the select board. We have a lot of them. We have arguments, but we don't show each other that kind of disrespect. It is absolutely wrong. I think he's probably got more integrity than the rest of the board combined. And that's just my personal opinion. Others might feel differently. Monday was disappointing. You're correct. Whoever said that, you are absolutely correct. It was disappointing that we had to be there. It was something that could have been avoided. Easy to blame Corey, who's no longer here. It's always easy to blame the guy that's not here. But the bottom line is, it stops with him, okay? He is the overall boss of the district. He is the chief financial officer. He is in charge of everything. And I can tell you right now, as much as I really like Troy, if this had happened under our watch, I'd probably be looking for his resignation. Or I'd be looking to remove him, okay? It just can't happen in this town. It shouldn't happen in this town. We have a great town, but every now and then you get hiccups. Budget committee, again, we are as open as it gets with the budget committee. And anybody else that comes to us for questions, including the superintendent, came to us a couple months ago asking for information on insurance. I was running that meeting because Steve wasn't there. I said to Troy, see that he gets what he wants. Period. End of discussion. That's how it should work. You talk about cooperation. Cooperation is a one-way street when it comes to dealing with the school. You want everyone to cooperate with you, but we don't get cooperation in return. That's got to change. You guys have codes of ethics, you have rules, you have, bylaws and all that stuff, but you're not following them. Repeated violations. As far as the deficit goes, one of two things had to happen. You knew it was coming and you did nothing about it, or if you didn't know, that's gross negligence. That is absolutely gross negligence. It is your job to know. That is why you get paid the money you get paid. You have to know everything. And really, you folks should know too. And if you don't know, you should ask the questions. I heard one of you say the other night, we didn't have the information. That's a problem. That's a real problem. It's just, there's so many red flags that are here, it's unbelievable. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this. This is a big issue, but the bigger issue is the over 85 people that have left this district in the last 5 years. Teachers, staff. You lost over 200 years of experience at LMS last year. They all had one thing in common. They are very upset with the way the board and the SAU. A lot of them did not want to go to that final day where they had to go up on stage and shake hands and all that stuff. They did not want to do that. Okay? You guys have created an image. I don't know how you're going to repair it. I wish you luck. I don't wish you bad. I really don't. Because we are a town. And I hope you're going into a non-public tonight. You're going to discuss some things. I hope you do the right thing. Past history tells me you won't, but I'm hoping that you do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I don't have, sorry, Peter Plansky, 144 Talent Road. Want to proffer an opportunity for you all to show some goodwill to the town and maybe start repairing your image. The other night at the meeting, Mr. Cutter suggested that you research where we could find money within the budget savings. That meeting begins tomorrow, correct? I would ask that this board publicly here today say, from fiscal year '23 going forward, any underspend is used to replenish those two accounts, rather than put that burden on the taxpayer. I would also ask that that be a warrant article in March, that the school board will commit to doing that. Food for thought. The other thing, just to touch, Mr. Jetty, I've gone back and watched a bunch of meetings, and while you are don't officially run the meeting, if you were to go back and honestly review the videotape, as Warner Wolf would say, you effectively run the meeting. I run a ton of meetings. You run the meeting. If you take a step back and look at it, you'll understand it. While Tina was the chair and now Liz is the chair, for all intents, effectively you run the meeting. And I learned the other night that you're the moderator in the town that you live in, and that's probably why you have so much knowledge, and a lot of that is appreciated. But I agree with Mr. Leary that you should not be at the head, you should be on a wing. The optics are not good. Not only does it sound, when I listen to the meetings that you run the meeting, it looks like you run the meeting, especially when you sit right next to the chair. So, just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi again. Shanna Dodge, 10 Heron Drive. I'm not going to talk on the topic that we've been talking about, but I think it's okay if I talk about something that's been talked about earlier. So on the topic of Power School, if we're talking about training, that's really awesome. I think parents need that. And I would just specify if we can look into or address the issue of the app versus the website. It's really different, and actually there's a lot you can't get on the app, and I don't know if everybody knows that. Specifically, I'm thinking about report cards, and I know my husband, who's much older than me, just kidding. I just give him a hard time. But he's like an old man. So he's like, where are the report cards? I want to look at your report card. And the kids are like, Dad, there's no report card. So, but we don't know where to find it always. So, and I'm always looking at their grades every day. So I'm like, they got A's, it's fine. So the other thing that I just want to touch on is finals. And our household, at least the parents in the household, are definitely in favor of finals coming back, because I don't feel like, I just don't feel like they know that pressure of, and I'm concerned that if and when they go to college, they're going to have a lot of pressure, and they won't have the team support that they had at home to get through that kind of pressure, and it makes me really nervous. So I'm not an educational expert, but as a parent, I would like to see some big tests like that. So in favor of finals.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Scott Taylor, 6 Lilac Court, Budget Committee member, but I am not speaking on behalf of the Budget Committee. I would also like to echo the sentiment that I feel that Andrew did get ambushed this evening. I think that many people that spoke about ways that people were treated on Monday night was put on him, forcing an action around weakening the Budget Committee. Since I've been on the Budget Committee, there has been no one that has been more prepared or analytical than Andrew has been. And now at this point, in our biggest time of need, when we need to inspect everything, we basically just took our best inspector and took him off the case, which is an absolute shame. And for part of it to be around not mentioning motions that were going to be brought up, Andrew will attest that my first year, I think just in one section for CHS alone, I had 18 motions. There was no way I was going to be bringing that to everybody's attention prior to bringing it up. You're put on a board to be able to think on your feet, and you should be doing the professional thing and being prepared to be able to discuss or at least articulate why you would be looking and persuade somebody to table that motion to a later date. Andrew, on behalf of the citizens, thank you for your time on the Budget Committee. You'll be greatly missed. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Thank you for moving us on your agenda.
Even though you yelled at me. Actually, didn't yell at me, you ripped me a nose.
Where are we now? Sorry. Wait for the coaching, policies first reading, old business. School district capital plan update.
So
Dr. Jettie?
what we've given you tonight is a link to the updated capital plan. If you remember at the last meeting, we had talked about the fact that we wanted to update and take some items off of the list. We're also going to consider adding a couple of items on. And so we did that work. We shared it with the board in advance. We all saw the way things played out in terms of it has not been presented yet. So I'm hoping that we can leave here tonight with a board vote to either amend this or accept it as written. And I guess I want to, it's going to be easier. I'm looking at the 2-point font in front of me, so I'm going to actually go online here. Bear with me while I pull it up.
The matrix. Are you?
Yeah, the matrix.
And one thing that the CIP committee is looking for is for us to rank them. That was something that we purposely left to kind of work out with the board. So while we felt we were ready to present kind of the needs, we did not feel like we were ready to present the rankings of them. But my understanding is that some of the other departments did kind of the same thing, and now they're going back with their rankings.
Are you
as
trying
well.
to rank it 1 to 10? This is kind of what I was.
So we took a back seat on it and said, well, there's sort of those that are the high priority items, we labeled high. Then there's sort of the middle, and then there's these really aren't a priority. They're on the list, but when you look at the overall depth of the list, they're just not ranking that high.
Yeah, and I would think the CIP committee, I don't want to speak for them, but they probably want at least something ranked 1 through something, and then maybe there's, after a certain number, these are some other thoughts type of thing, but I think they definitely want our 1 through.
It's meant to be just a barometer on terms of urgency and priority. Obviously, we all know the new elementary school is gonna be the top dog, right? That's not a surprise to anybody. It's what comes next, right? And so when they're looking at putting out the 6-year plan with town and school needs, they can evaluate and try and level it as much as possible. Obviously, the school is the big hiccup in that, but try to level it as much as possible for taxpayer funding and consideration.
So there's really 2 rankings on here. If you look at every single one of the forms are ranked, they all have priority urgent, priority necessary, or desirable.
That's the CIP ranking score.
That's the CIP rank. And
Yep.
then in the spreadsheet, the rankings are high, medium, and low. So when I compare those, I see a disconnect with the CHS irrigation, which is ranked as priority, but then it's ranked as low. Whereas the district-wide capital repairs is also ranked as priority, but that's ranked as high. So that confuses me.
So we use the words high, medium, and low just in terms of our overall assessment of where that stood. To be honest, I don't have the definitions that the CIP is using. So when I look at priority, necessary, desirable, I don't know exactly what they even mean by those words. I mean, it's desirable, but it's not necessary, or it's necessary and desirable. It just, so we didn't
No,
use
the
it.
form should
right?
have the definitions on it. A key, yeah, exactly.
I think I have that somewhere,
Oh, thanks. Do you share that with the board?
if I can find it.
Okay.
Andrew, anything you can share with me would be helpful.
Sure.
So, I think just in terms of looking at the matrix, let me just orient you to make sure that you're following it. If you look at the very bottom, you'll see that there are 4 items that we're considering completed. CHS pavement, which was on there initially, we brought a company in, we've addressed, the main thing there was really the curbing and the walkway repairs. Those have been taken care of, and, there are still cracks in the asphalt. At some point, it's gonna have to be resurfaced, but when you compare that lot to the LMS lot, the LMS lot is in much worse condition. So we're suggesting that be marked as completed. LMS renovation of the kitchen. We're suggesting it be marked as completed because it's in the guaranteed maximum price and it's approved. So there's no need to carry a separate $350,000 item. It's been done by the project. CHS gym bleachers, it was initially a $206,000 replacement. We were able to bring a company in and rehab them for far less cost. And so our feeling is that it's been resolved and there's no need to replace. And then the LMS additional classrooms have been addressed by the project. So when the project's done and the school is completely turned back over to us, we will have adequate space for the foreseeable future. So, that was really classrooms to replace the portables. It's not necessary. So those items have come off and resulted in savings off the CIP. And then the two items that are new are highlighted in green. We added the CHS irrigation now that we're just learning more and more about the irrigation system. And so it's in here with a $50,000 estimate. It's also on for 23-24, which I'm not sure is the right timeline for that. And the other is LMS pavement, parking lot, access road, and underground piping. And we put that in at a much higher amount also. So I don't think, hang on one second, I want to find the sheet. Oh, the sheet is linked. What am I doing?
So
Well, we've actually added 3 items.
the LMS, okay, the energy efficient project, the only thing that's remaining there potentially is GMS, but we have that broken dollars in this next year, but then 24 to 25 are both of those representative of the potential
Yeah, what's happening in 24, 25?
Yeah, should that be coming off because that maybe was the other portion of it? Do you know what I'm saying? You see that? These
Yep.
two? Why are
Says
there
two,
two
yeah.
costs there? You know?
You lost me, Tara. Can you just say it
So
again? Which,
there's a cost of $770,900 for district-wide energy efficiency, and then that's in 22-23, and then there's a cost of $2.1 million for 24-25.
So I'm guessing the 2.1 was probably this LMS.
the 2.1 is HVAC at GMS. If the school fails, that's what it will cost to repair. So it's the same thing that we had done. Initially, if you go back and you look at that sheet, there were dollar amounts in for HVAC work at LMS and CHS. And because the project got passed, they now have dropped off in terms of dollar amounts. And so the 2.132 is the Turner Report number that we inflated by 30% because that Turner Report's several years old, right?
And that's for all 3 schools?
Nope, that's just the GMS portion.
Can we just delineate that somehow?
Can we break it in a separate row?
Yeah, or break the energy efficiency project into LMS, GMS, CHS.
You want 3 sheets?
Well, I don't know.
Boxes.
No, she wants 3 lines.
Oh.
Just 3 lines in that chart, just so
We can subdivide the
see-
cell to
Yeah,
put it in.
yeah.
Yep.
Just so we can see where each, what the 770 is.
See what the dollars are
and-
coming
yeah,
off.
Right.
My question is just maybe a misunderstanding of the years. I'm reading 22-23 as what will be presented in March. Is that true?
Or embedded in the budget. I mean, when you say presented, you mean through the budget or warrant article.
Or warrant article, right? So 23-24 means
Next year?
GMS ballot March of 24. Is that what that means?
I want to make sure that we're
That's a good
thinking the
question.
same
I was
on
kind
it
of
because
interpreting that this.
Yeah, because I'm confused as
if
these.
that's FY '24, that would be on the warrant in March of '23. And so let's use GMS
Should
for a
get rid
second.
of this column then. Do you
This
know
is
what I mean?
suggesting that we're going to have $35.5 million on the warrant this March.
Yep.
In order to have that money available the following fiscal year. And that's not likely.
Right.
Right.
So
That's the reason for my question. Is this even accurate or does it need to move?
it needs to move.
Well, I think it's up to the board too, to say what year they wanna see that.
See, as I read this, I read the first column as that 125,000 would be on the March 2023 ballot.
And I interpreted it as,
That's
is this what
was-
we already asked for this past March?
Spending for.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And now it's in, that's the 125 that we.
That's already there.
Effectively allowed to go
Okay.
into the account on Monday night, I think.
How does, I mean, I'm assuming there's a town matrix for capital planning, right? How do they delineate the years on that?
It's just, this is what we're gonna ask in March of '23, this is what we're gonna ask in March of '24.
Okay.
So maybe we just say
yeah,
that
it's-
instead of the years here.
Well, see if this makes sense.
2023 ask, 2024 ask.
I got view only, I can't write on it.
Oh,
never
I'm
mind.
sorry.
No, don't. What I was gonna do is see where it says 22, 23, there's a cell above it. If we
Yep.
type in that cell, March of 22, because that's what I think
see.
it was,
Yeah.
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And,
March of 22?
yep, goes
Or
above,
just right above it.
above the 22, 23 in that cell.
Okay.
Yeah,
That helps to clarify.
that clarifies it, but then I think we need to extend this by another year. Because it's a 6-year plan, and you'd only have 5 years represented.
Right. So we'll carry that march of right across, just add a year to each one. We'll add a 6th year in there.
So the 770,000 from the third line down, the energy efficiency, is that the LMS completed, the LMS and CHS lighting completed?
No, it would have a negative in front of it.
Right, so what is that 770?
It is combination.
Oh,
of
I see, I do see that the other ones down
LMS
here have it.
lighting and
Okay.
The, I have to get to it, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Lighting needed at LMS, HVAC at CHS,
Yeah, see
and
that,
then, yeah.
that would help me if if it was delineated by school.
It's on the sheet, though. If you click the link and go into the worksheet and go to page 2, toward the right-hand side, it's breakdown by location. And you can see it's 779 at CHS total, which amounts to the mechanical HVAC work with a 30% increase. So the last time we had 593 in there for Campbell, and we increased it by 30%.
Why am I not seeing that? Hold on. I clicked on this link,
Yep, go into that,
right? I went into that.
scroll to page 2, and then look right there.
Okay. Ah, all right. Got it.
But we can make it more transparent in the cell by listing it out there.
That would be helpful to me anyway.
Charging.
Sure you can. You should be plugging into the
Okay.
wall.
So is the time
I
to
know,
have
I
the
know, but it's
GMS
all,
conversation now, or is
Yes.
that a later date?
It is absolutely now. And
Right.
that's why this is not right. We need to extend it a year. We need to understand where these are gonna fall in these calendar years, because this is what the CIP is going to use to formulate the plan. I also, in my opinion, I think CHS Stadium turf for 2.4, no way. Out, in my opinion. Stadium field lighting, out, in my opinion. Those are wants, not needs. The above are needs.
So I guess the question is that what the CIP terms, is that where those terms come in, as
You
desirable?
can ask for whatever you want. Right now, I'm concerned about
Yeah.
the optics of what this board asks for.
Okay,
If you look at the top of the sheets, the worksheets,
right.
they're on there, and those are delineated by the state.
Yeah, I agree that those are wants, not needs at this point.
And they were both on the previous capital improvement plan, so
Yep.
what's the harm in keeping it on here, because it was important 3 years ago?
As long as it's ranked.
Right, properly.
You can do that.
But I agree with you, it's not.
I don't think it
certainly not a
helps
need.
with the budgeting of the CIP at all when you have, essentially $2.8 million that is not as critical as the rest of it, but.
Right, I guess what we're not understanding is the viewpoint of the CIP.
You can put whatever you want as long as it's a capital request above $50,000 that you foresee in the next 6 years, right?
Okay.
You can keep these on here, certainly. I am trying to give the board a heads up. If you do, I think this is gonna create another optics problem for this board.
Okay. So, Andrew,
Can I ask why though? Because it's seen as asking for too much?
It's seen as asking for things that you don't actually need to fix the core problems that we've been speaking about now for a long time.
okay.
Is the capital improvement only to fix needs?
No, but there are so many within the schools. Right, I mean, the other departments in the town, they're asking for like, a new skid steer to remove trash and an excavator to move stuff, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's-
yeah,
It's not
definitely.
like they're, we wanna build this, well, I mean, the police, they have a $6 million ask or whatever the cost is now for a new police station. You know what I mean? There's things like that, but there's not like,
So, Andrew, can I ask a sidebar question, I guess? I appreciate all of the work that you've done on this committee. You've basically been running the committee as far as I've seen for the past several years. And I know that we had discussions about the code of conduct and the code of ethics and acting unilaterally, but because of your wealth of knowledge in this area, I'm curious why you resigned this evening.
you asked me to resign from this committee. That was a comment that the board made to start this meeting.
No?
So, yes, it was, and so I just actioned upon it.
We never made,
Tara?
I did.
oh,
From the capital improvement, not the budget committee,
okay.
There you go.
because he acted unilaterally. But I'm only one person. I don't.
The problem's
I don't
solved. It's not up for
presume that I
renegotiation
can
for
make
me.
the
Andrew, that
decisions on the
it's
board.
not. It's not. We didn't discuss it as a board.
I would
think-
like for you to stay on
Yeah.
committees.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, we'll bring this back then.
So to me, it looks like we don't have the cost for the CHS pavement that's completed or the renovation of the kitchen. Well, we do have part of that, I guess. But what's coming off is 1.7 million. What's being added is 950,000. So on the measure, there's actually substantially less total.
But our cost for GMS is going way
Yes,
up
that's right.
compared to what it was.
Yep, that's right, that's right.
What was the amount? Was it 20 million? I don't remember the amount that was originally in the plan.
It was 30
32, I
million.
think.
It was 30.
And
It was 30,
if you
okay.
look at the cost of construction, that's what's happened. And if you look at what it was 15 years ago, it was half of that. So it's, it's just the nature of building. It's gonna continue to increase.
So,
And part of the increase too is ensuring that we're putting all the costs for the elementary school. So not just construction, but design, architect, commissioning, probably a clerk of the works type of thing as well.
And I think the other thing is the initial ask was, we didn't know if we were building on site, and now, the feasibility study has made it clear, a new school on a new site. And so that's added to cost.
But that's another cost I don't see here is land acquisition.
Right.
That's over 50,000. It should be part of the plan.
It's actually
it's in
embedded,
there.
it's
It's
embedded
500,000.
in that dollar amount. So we factored that in.
Okay, so that needs to be separated out then if that's gonna be two separate asks.
I think it should be too.
Right.
Okay, yeah, we talked about that, whether
Yeah,
we should separate out or not,
definitely.
so.
Yep. I mean, I guess as a board, are we in agreement that where we are with the GMS project, it is still, despite what was said tonight, a very high priority for me, but it can't be an ask this year, I don't think.
It doesn't change the need
it doesn't
it
change
doesn't.
the need.
at all. I think we all agree to that.
Agreed.
And so, but we need to move on land purchase if we want to be able to make progress for the 24
Right.
ask.
So I would like to see
Yeah.
land purchase in 23, GMS in 24.
I support that.
Yeah.
I do too.
What, Liz?
I just would like to have all our ducks in a row before we go forward with the GMS. I want the accounts replenished.
Of course.
Yeah, before any of this happens.
This is just a
Yeah.
plan. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you actually have to
A
go to
wish
a
list?
warrant article on
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? It's
Okay.
just it's a plan, and once it's in the plan, then the idea is that releases impact fees and other things.
Okay.
And I
mean,
think it's a good plan to stagger out with the town, the large asks, and plan
Oh,
for them
absolutely.
accordingly. So, you know, the town, I think, was operating, and the select board was operating under the assumption and the belief that we were gonna ask for, put the elementary school on the ballot for March, and if that's not gonna happen, I don't know whether that changes their
Well, maybe it
plans.
just starts the discussion again on a new fire apparatus. I don't know.
Right, right. But that's why we need to have this done by the 3rd.
Well, before the 3rd, I think.
Yeah, we have to approve it before then, but
This is our last meeting before the 3rd, or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, again, the process we had put last time was, we'll take it back. We met for 3 hours, I think, developing that to get it ready. And so if we move the numbers around, realign around this conversation, I would actually suggest that we dump, I don't know if we actually hid like previous columns. I'm not sure we need the March of 22 column on there any longer, or even, because it's over.
Been there, done that, yeah.
And so we focus on the next 6 years, right? 6 years from the year that we're in, and just readjust the dollars and make it crystal clear exactly what we're asking for.
Yeah.
Put it back in the folder, ask you to, just look at the matrix one more time, because that's, the key thing is really getting the matrix right, so. And you give us feedback on it, and.
I'd like the whole board to be able to look at it before you present.
yeah, we'll have to have a meeting to do that.
So we can bring it back on October 5th and just tell the CIP committee that we can't present on the 3rd. Or we can take care of it and get it in the folder for the board to, by consensus, just make
What are
sure we
your
got it right.
thoughts?
Is the only change moving the new GMS ask, and that we've already addressed, I mean, and then unless we're going to take off
gonna get rid of
the
this
low
column.
priorities, we're gonna take off that column. I'm comfortable with those amendments, approving the plan going forward now. I don't want to put off the CIP meeting for another month.
That will
So
put
my
the
only
CIP
question
in a
is
tough
the
spot.
770,000, does that switch to the next year?
The what?
The
now?
energy efficiency project, the 770,
No,
does that switch to?
Falls off altogether.
That's gone.
That one's done.
that's current year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
I
that,
just wanna make sure that was, that's why it's hard to see.
we had it,
which Portion is complete,
well, we had it on
doesn't have a
the
negative.
CIP, before the LMS project got passed. And when the LMS project got passed, the lighting, for example, those are all portions of what got passed. So it's not necessary going forward, because it was embedded in the
Yeah.
project.
So
that
the
we're
only
doing.
expense for that line going forward potentially is the HVAC for GMS, the 2.1.
Yeah,
million.
and,
Okay.
that's gonna bump over another cell, because, we,
Yeah, if we
we're on
get
borrowed time with that system down
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So we either get the project approved
Yeah,
and cement that we're not investing in it, or we've gotta do something.
right, right. So that's just the HVAC. Does that have lighting involved in it too? We're not at
At
GMS.
GMS,
I believe it does, yeah. Right, it's HVAC and,
Okay, so that would get bumped to the year after the
the bond.
bond, okay.
I think the other thing, or two things, if we add a year, which we should do, does that add anything in scope to what would be asked for? I don't know the answer to that question, I'm asking you. And the second thing is.
Can you just clarify that question? Does
Well,
it add-
it's a 5-year plan now, we need it to be a 6-year plan, so if we add a year to it, what else now becomes in scope in terms of capital
2930.
improvements? Maybe nothing, I don't know the answer to that. Right, and I would just piggyback that comment on, we've now depleted our accounts. We also, as a part of this plan, if there's going to be an ask to the taxpayers to replenish accounts, that's gotta be a part of this plan. Right? Has to be.
So if you.
Or if there's, if there's septic systems or other things that need to be a part of this, that needs to be in here too.
Yep,
And if you look at line 4, so district-wide capital repairs, that's the 100, 125, 125. We've projected forward that we were gonna keep doing that. Now, we may
Okay.
wanna up that number, given what's happened. Maybe 125 isn't enough, but that's where that that lies at this point.
I feel pretty strongly that we shouldn't be asking for more from the taxpayers on this.
I don't think you have a shot in heck to have it passed, personally.
Probably true, but I also think it would be irresponsible to ask the taxpayers to pay. We are following the plan, and we are going to figure out a way to come up with this difference as you've been tasked to do. And as much as I
never
want,
wanna ask the taxpayers for more money.
no.
We've
I
already-
mean, to the
yeah.
extent that there's been a request for a commitment, I'm not, I'm not supportive of that at this time.
And to be clear, in the past, the warrant article has been with underspend. And Peter Plansky suggested tonight that any underspend goes into replenishing those accounts.
I 100%
I
agree with that.
agree with
thought
that.
so.
I do, yeah.
But in the past, like this year, it was $100,000 bond, or amount, but that was from underspend. That wasn't on top of the other, it wasn't new appropriations.
Correct.
Right.
So,
So is this a line item that we can remove altogether?
Which one, I'm sorry, the 125?
Yeah.
The capital repairs, right?
as long as.
If the idea,
Mhm.
maybe not this year, but if the idea in future years is to replenish our accounts and start to build them up again with encumbrance.
Can we make a note on here that the goal is to be self-funding?
And again, you can leave it on the plan, it doesn't matter, right?
Right, I get it, but I'm saying I think it's important to have it out here for planning purposes,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
for the warrant, but I would love to see a note either under,
From year-end
in the
funds.
description that says from year-end funds.
Unspent year-end funds.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because it makes it clear we're not asking for the 125, we
On
are gonna.
top of, right.
Right,
Right.
I think that should be spelled out crystal clear.
Yep, we can do that.
I support that. And if there's more that we can put into those funds, the better.
It's already there, actually, but
Where?
I get it. In the funding source, it says annual warrant
No,
article,
but-
construction, and I can add
Okay,
from
thank you.
Yeah, I think it needs to be clear that it's the underspend.
underspent. Hang on a second, something's going on
Okay.
with this.
And then again, I support moving the 35 million request to March of 24 and leaving the 500,000 request
I agree with that.
on 23, March of 23.
So that the help that we need with the priority is, so what do we say, Andrew, you think it's best to rank like the first couple at all, or just kind of put, again, words with it?
Well, I mean, I think this, my computer, I think
It's the night.
it's pretty much in order of priority is how I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, and I think that,
Land as number one, because we're going for that
Land.
first.
Absolutely.
GMS,
Yeah.
we need to build up our accounts. Yep, I mean, I'm interpreting this pretty much in order of priority as it's built.
Yeah.
I skipped in presenting the new, so the LMS fields,
Mm-hmm.
that's also a new item on here.
Yeah.
Right, so,
but I
But
think it's a
that's
medium. I do
later.
think it's,
Yeah.
we have that as medium.
Absolutely.
And notice that the pavement parking, medium high, because
Mm-hmm.
one failure underground that results in a massive
Yeah.
sinkhole,
So
it
maybe
goes
we move
from.
that
but
one up.
yeah, I don't think that one can be the same. So if we're putting the $35 million ask in March of 20,
Can't be the same year.
it can't be the same year.
Right.
So that's gotta move.
25.
Yep.
And then if we don't get the bond in 24, that moves GMS out to 26.
You're making
The
assumptions.
GMS parking lot out to 26.
Right.
So one thing that's come up since we started building this too is the LMS gym. I believe it's had already had its last sanding, so we
that's
were doing
right.
other work, it
That's
needs to have
right.
like a total replacement. Dave is looking to get some pricing on that, but I would assume that would be over.
Have to be hardwood? Sorry.
So he's actually he wants to.
Probably
try
Tile
to-
work,
Like,
laminate.
so it says rubberized thing that
Yeah.
you roll out.
Yeah.
On it. And so at my past school, we did that in our cafeteria, which we used as like a second basketball court as well. And it came out really nice. And
it a
I'll
fraction
also
of
let
the
you know,
cost?
for that too, we actually shared the cost with that, with the town rec, because they use the basketball courts so much. So we did that, the base, we were funding the base level, and then we bumped it up to the rubberized, and they paid the difference between those two prices.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think that should be on here too then, if that's in the next 6 years thing. How often do we sand the gym?
This year it needed it, for sure.
I don't know how often, yeah.
Okay.
Talking about resurfacing the floor.
But it's, again,
I
it's
don't think they can sand it anymore because
so
it comes
thin.
down to the, yeah.
It also has,
Floor replacement.
it's got a pest problem. There's termites actually that are in the, or carpenter ants or whatever, so
So-
that hasn't helped.
To summarize, can we just summarize this so we can move on? Are you okay?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to update the plan, we're gonna drop 2022 off the plan. And we're going to put land purchase as number one.
In 23.
In 23.
Yep.
And the school in 24. And everything else is medium.
Or contingent on whether or not the school passes.
Correct. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
So
And then we're gonna get the LMS floor on there.
Yeah.
Is that a want or a need? It sounds like a need to me,
More of a need.
Yep.
because the town and the students play on it.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the basketball program.
And so the only other thing that could bump up more to a high would be the LMS pavement if we start having problems with the underground piping.
I actually believe it's already a high. That parking lot's a disaster.
I think I might even bump that above fields, if they're not already. Is fields,
I would
Well,
agree
yeah,
with that.
because the medium high for
think you could-
GMS and the medium high, shouldn't those be above a medium?
I think you do fields with the parking lot,
with the parking lot,
right? Because if there's construction equipment to make the fields,
that makes sense.
they sort of go hand in hand from a, just like an operations piece, and remember, that's also including the emergency egress access road, so you're talking work that I would envision happening at the same time.
Yes.
but-
Okay.
But we're also trying to be mindful of the costs, and if you do that in phases,
I think that needs to be aligned with GMS personally. Because if you have a new school, right, you're not gonna have kids go to a field that we don't occupy anymore, you know what I mean? Which is the
Oh,
current
cause currently they go to GMS,
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah.
we would still own the fields, but.
I guess that depends, right, if you sell the land.
Well, it depends on how we subdivide off. I mean, we should be, that's a whole other conversation,
Yeah.
but, you know, we have all that frontage on 3A, which may not be good frontage for a school, but it is the LMS lot. And so do you want to cut that off completely? I mean, we have to have a whole strategic
We could also
conversation
ask
about it.
about a covenant in whatever agreement we make that we still have access to those fields.
Yep.
You know,
But they're still not great fields, you know?
No, I mean,
and
none of them are
they're
ideal,
not
right.
next to the
They're not at the
middle
school.
school.
right, no, I agree. Okay,
Do we need to vote on this, or are we all comfortable with how it looks?
If we'll take a whack at it, put it back in there, and I think if we stick with consensus, I mean, you've been heard on it, and we'll get it into a format that we can.
That is okay with me. I don't think we can vote on it because, again, I'd like to see it extended a year with whatever potentially could be.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that okay with the CIP committee? Because they kind of dictated to end it in 28. So is that okay?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a 6-year plan.
I know, I just want to make sure we're aligned with what they want, that's all.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right. Moving on, old business, policies, second reading and approval, FF, naming of facilities. Any more comments? Nope.
I'll make
No.
oh, good. I was gonna do it all at once. Is everyone okay all at
Yes,
once?
absolutely.
Motion to approve FF, IKF, and JLC policies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
Who seconded?
Heidi.
Heidi.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my hearing is going.
COVID plans. COVID number. These are our COVID numbers.
Yeah, so just a quick overview. So if you look at the COVID numbers, we were experiencing, so don't look at the summary sheet because that hasn't been filled in yet. I still gotta figure out exactly the way we wanna be
Make it
reporting. But GMS, if you look at the staff numbers and you look at the student numbers, we started off slow, they spiked right up by the second week, and now they've tailed back off again. So I think that was sort of the back-to-school surge. People saw each other who they hadn't seen. It bears it out in those numbers. And there's really nothing too shocking, although on Monday the 19th, we hit the highest absentee rate of 8%, so there were 35 students out. But that has sort of come back down again, so. Looking at LMS, you see a similar trend. The numbers aren't as big, but they started off slow, they spiked, and now they've come back down again. So I think it's the back-to-school piece there. And then at Campbell, and again, Campbell's been an anomaly all along. If it spiked, it wasn't a massive spike. So there's really not a lot to say here. I think we'll keep monitoring it, talk to more and more people who are going out and taking care of the vaccines, boosters, that's on everybody's minds. I know I've scheduled, I'm doing the double flu in one arm and COVID in the other, and just get it over with all at once. So I think a lot of people are taking that approach at this time. I will say that we are hosting the South Central Superintendent meetings, the regional meetings at Campbell. And our first meeting is on Friday, and I've heard from 3 colleagues who can't attend the meeting. So it's interesting that it's affecting kind of across the board, so. Anything from the board on COVID numbers that you want us to?
If there was a spike in a particular class, is that something that our room would be notified, our parents would be notified? I know, this isn't lice, it's not lice, but I know if there's a lice case in the room, parents kind of get a note home that says, hey, by the way, there was lice in your room, keep an eye on your kid. I'm not saying there should be a COVID note for every single case, but if there was more than one, is that something that is happening, or is that?
So the principals are monitoring that, and it seems to be, so it's harder to detect at the middle and high school because what's a class? They shift and change, right?
Yeah.
But I know that Dan is very mindful of that because they are more fixed at the elementary.
We've had things like, I remember when my kids were in elementary, especially getting notes home that there was a stomach bug going around, or there was strep going around. So just, that was kind of just the nurse kind of giving everybody a heads up to watch for symptoms and don't come to school sick.
Yes, I missed all those.
You had healthy kids, maybe?
Manifest.
I think we covered it, did we?
I don't think anyone looked at it yet,
Oh.
but.
Oh, we had the conversation.
Yeah.
Right, not the actual manifest.
So it says it's available on the at 4 PM. It's available at 4 PM.
It's actually available at
The
noon.
day of the meeting, and you're
To
here.
4 PM.
4 PM, and you're here available a half an hour prior to the meeting starting so we can review.
Yep.
I don't know if anyone wants to entertain the thought of starting the meeting at 5:15 so we can review, 5 o'clock so we can review, or.
Starting at 5:30.
All right, so we start at the 5:30, and if you want.
Public meeting starts at 6. Because then that allows us to have the manifest conversation. If we have extra time and we don't have a lot of questions, we can jump into the non-public business that's at the end of the agenda to shorten us up. But then for the public, it's not on till 6, and maybe that gives people a little bit more time to get home.
I
and
like that. I
come
didn't know
speak.
that the select board did that, so that was good information.
Absolutely.
Do you know, Andrew, how long those meetings usually are?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Do we think a half hour would be enough time?
I guess it depends on the manifest.
Depends on,
But again, I think if we have a summary where we're going into those sessions a little bit prepared,
Yeah.
right? All right, I saw $100,000 here we go. I saw this for payroll, here we go, right? It helps speed up that process a
It's
little bit.
funny, no one's ever really mentioned the manifest before, and then suddenly at the last few board meetings, I've gotten why are you bringing so much paper to the meeting? I'm like, it's not my paper. That's the manifest. That's not mine, I promise. There's a lot of paper to go through.
All right.
So we're going to start the meetings at 6, and we'll be here at 5:30 to review the manifest. Is that fair for everybody?
So,
All right.
a suggestion, that we go into non-public at 5:30 to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just formalize it, and we can get other work done that maybe we can take off the tail end of the meeting too, so.
Perfect, and then we start promptly at 6, no matter how far we got
Correct.
non-public.
Public
I like it.
Okay. Sorry, you missed that whole
I
discussion.
did
Do
miss
you
that.
want to take a vote on that?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to have a non-public, non-public part of every meeting.
Yes.
Beginning at 5:30, ending at 6, with the specific intent and purpose to be for manifest review and signatures. At 6 o'clock, we'll go into our public meeting.
Second.
Okay.
Did I say that right?
Yes,
Okay.
it was perfect.
That
All right.
sounds good.
Might be wordy for
What if
Michelle,
we're done
sorry.
early?
Then we go into the non-public that's at the end of the, we can
Oh.
start that business and try and chop
Chop
off
off
some of
the-
the end of the agenda.
Okay, got it. All right, good. Okay,
Okay.
I'm okay with
All
that.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
So we can do that? We can have a non-public to go over the manifest?
Yep.
But we still need to publicly
We're publicly announcing that we're meeting.
announce it.
And once we come out of our manifest review at 6 o'clock, we can then say a summary, board's just coming out of the manifest
Right.
review, we sign.
But that's a reason that you can enter into non-public.
Absolutely.
Never heard
Yep.
of. Okay, good.
The board does it every week, Board of Selectmen.
Well, I know, I didn't know if
Yeah.
their rules were different.
Which,
than
which
ours.
RSA do they go in under?
Yeah,
I have
see,
no
I
idea.
don't know, that's why
I'll
I'm
have to watch it more
asking.
closely.
Can we look at,
Yeah.
ask that question? too?
That's exactly what I'm asking.
Thank you, Michelle.
Before we end the meeting, I did miss a community input. It was from Cecile Bonvouloir. It basically said that we have to that we are electing a new chair, and she urges us to take a step back and consider carefully who we nominate and, for the next chair. She thinks that Ms. Ames has demonstrated qualities to bring the board together. I will step aside if you'd like to be chair, Mrs. Ames. I hope the board and community can move forward. Frankly, it's been a daunting couple of years. Thank you, Cecile Bonfloir, 1 Tamarack Lane. Sorry, Cecile. And with that, we will go into
Just one more question on the manifest. I think it's probably falling under 91AC because of payroll. And personnel questions that can come up.
Okay.
All right, well, that's good to know, because I read this, what we read every time, and it doesn't look like it would fall under there to me, but maybe if it's
Yeah,
because of that.
I'm really wondering, so let's check one of their agendas and just see under which clause it's
What
going,
they-
because even payroll is public. I mean, it's somebody's salary, which is a public number, so, interesting, well.
Should we remove that motion then, until we have more? Yeah, I'm thinking we should.
Okay, all those in favor? of-
Well, I mean, does the board agree? I mean, let's table that for a week.
Yeah.
Let me ask a different question. So we're trying to figure out how to end earlier,
Yeah.
right? So if we stick with the non-public and we do our business, if we can't do the manifest,
Yep.
we can at least get some
Can at
work
least do
done.
our
Because
business, yeah.
I think the concern has always been, not so much about board members getting here on time, but for the public, right? So, we're just reversing when we do the non-public.
As long as, you know, we're not gonna be sitting there twiddling our thumbs, we'll have a half hour of non-public at least, okay?
We will not be twiddling our thumbs
Okay.
if we're doing,
The more
I
we
mean,
can get done, the earlier, the better.
it's really bringing the end of the meeting forward, and historically, we meet longer than a half an hour, so I think we'll.
Okay.
Yep. It might even cut down on deliberation during
Would you
non-public.
like to have a motion, Andrew?
No.
No?
So
Well, we already, did we already
We
make
did
that?
vote,
We
but
already
do
made
we
the
wanna
motion.
rescind that?
No, I think
No,
we
we'll
keep
start-
it the
you think it
same at
covers-
5:30 non-public, and worst comes to worst, if we find out we can't discuss the manifest, then we do our other non-public business, because again, I do think a 6 o'clock start is better for the community.
Can we put that on Facebook and on the pages?
Yeah.
Because some people think we have,
5 o'clock start.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's confusion
I can do
since
that.
we've been
I'll add
bouncing
it
all
to
over
my
the
action
place.
list.
With that, we will enter non-public. Hold on, I need my glasses.
Bye,
The
darling.
dismissal, promotion, or
Darlene.
compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any changes against him, unless the employee affected, number one, has the right to a meeting, two, request that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. B, I didn't read the A. The hiring of any personnel as a public employee. Matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
C.
She just read that.
I, yes. Don't we have to say yes?
No.
We're agreeing to
I
all
read
that?
C.
Okay.
Oh,
So you
All
go
those-
around and call names.
Andrew,
Yes.
Tara,
yes.
Tina, oops, Heidi.
Yes.
Yes.
I was going with the T names.
That's okay.
We are now in non-public.
Have a great night, everybody.